exciting announcement. We now have Brockton Bay Book Club merch. We've got our Brockton Bay Book Club t-shirt, as well as the Brockton Bay's sweatshirt. They look sweet. Hannah designed them, and they're amazing. So if you're interested in that, link will be in the description. And shout out to Hannah for all the sweet designs. Thanks so much for your guys' support, and go check it out. Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae, also known as Wildbow. You can read Worm in its original format by visiting parahumans.wordpress.com or donate to Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. This story isn't intended for young or sensitive readers. Readers who are on the lookout for trigger warnings are advised to give Worm a pass. For a complete list, check the description for all of Worm's trigger warnings.
Good morning, Brockton Bay. Grab your spatial pile drivers and kill a god. It's Arc 30, Speck.
Hey.
Woo. We have made it. How we all feeling?
Oh, I cried for 30 minutes on my couch this afternoon, so that's how I'm doing.
It's maybe the first time I've understood 30% more of this arc than I did the previous couple of times I've listened to this or read this.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
I would agree with that. Yeah, this is So my first experience reading Worm, I think I mentioned previously. I got to like arc 26, and then just stayed up till like 4 a.m. reading the rest of it because I had to know what happened. And so this is like my eyes are blurry. I'm on my phone in the night, like.
You're not sure if it's you or if it's the book. You're like, that didn't make sense. I don't know. I gotta keep going. It's fine.
So so that's where I was. So reading this again, I was like, oh, cool. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah, I've been making fun of y'all for your wormnesia and your wormmentia. But
you have.
Man, the last like I don't know 3 arcs. Like this one included, we've had the revelation that Noctis capes are in the book. That it's explicitly stated that the Endbringers are a result of Eidolon.
Right.
And now we have a lot of things that happened in this arc that I remember this very different, apparently.
It's like the Mandela effect, where you're like, wait. When's the last time that Wildbow edited this? Because I swear this is
which we know has happened. Happened. So I'm not unconvinced that I'm not crazy. You're crazy.
It's always possible, right?
Yeah, the Mandela effect.
Hilarious.
Please, Amy, cut the Mandela out of my brain when I went, full Capri.
Got a South African president out of your brain?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It's fair.
Well, so glad to see all your faces for one of our last, arcs. It's pretty awesome.
Gosh.
Something special for you listeners, you audio listeners. You're missing out. Check out what YouTube.
Yeah,
we're posting this?
our faces. You can see our faces. The YouTube people.
You take one
It's
good
true.
look,
See.
and then
It's us.
wish you'd gone
Hi.
back.
Actually, Spotify's doing video podcasts now, so we may be
Oh
able
yeah,
to do
Spotify.
Might be on Spotify.
Look at us.
Yeah.
Wow.
like it.
We'll
Wow.
see. No
A
promises.
little
Feels
thank
like
you
that.
for sticking with us for
My
Either way.
face on every platform. Let's go.
It's true. It's true. You can see all of our, a little peek into our lives. Hannah and Alan recording from their house. Jacob from what appears to be backstage at a theater. Michael from a studio, and me while in witness protection.
As soon as we're done
Defiant, is
recording
that
this, you
you?
have to leave immediately, right?
Yeah.
Relocate.
No,
Colin?
this is being recorded on a secure line. Thanks to our sponsor. Just kidding, not a sponsor. NordVPN.
Not a sponsor. Not a
Please,
sponsor.
please
sponsor. No,
sponsor
not a
us.
sponsor.
Yeah, good. You can sponsor us. Go ahead.
We're not. We're not
Michael,
giving out
our
free
sponsor.
free advertising here, though.
No.
Oh, that was a great
Ah.
sponsor.
Anyway,
Wow.
Yeah, good sponsor.
What an
Oh,
excellent
man.
sponsor. Hot
Ooh.
dog.
And if you'd like to see more of our beautiful faces, we have a Patreon where our patrons have seen our faces before
They have.
and likely will again.
They will.
Mhm.
So check us out.
absolutely.
Also, fun fact, if you're a patron, you have access to some special fun stuff. Not just videos and audios of us talking, but actual physical stuff.
Mhm.
Physical stuff.
Keep an eye out.
Exactly.
Kinky.
Thank you, Michael.
We are so good
only
at
job.
marketing ourselves.
Well, now that
we
everybody
better.
skipped 30 seconds until all the ads are done, should
I
we get
know,
into
right?
the podcast?
Our
I was about to
cold
say,
open.
actually, would this be a good time to mention that we have merch?
Oh yeah. Very
Yeah.
good time.
We
Why
have
not?
merch. We have merch. We have two things that you can buy to represent us and the Brockton Bay Book Club podcast. We have a t-shirt, not in hand at the moment, or else I'd wear it. But it's just got our lovely logo that I designed on the front. It's a white and black ringer tee, so it's got black bands around the neck and the cuffs on the sleeves. Very
I'll check the
comfy,
picture
very
here.
soft.
Yeah, we'll totally have the
represent
picture in here.
Us, there it is somewhere. It's somewhere. It's
Oh
somewhere.
wow, it looks so good. Wow.
Available for purchase. We also have a the Brockton Bays sweatshirt, which is also very
My
fun.
personal
So if
favorite.
you'd like to get something fun for the holidays or for other times of the year, feel free. And we'd love that. That'd be great.
Michael,
That'd be
I
awesome.
think it's been a while. Can you remind the people what the Brockton Bay's theme song sounds like?
Yeah.
I sure can.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael.
Fire.
Thank you,
Heck
Michael.
yeah. So it's that vibe, but on a sweatshirt.
Mhm.
Yes.
Speaking of some
Right.
Brockton Bays, we've got quite the clusterfuck gangbang in this arc, don't we?
It's a real hoedown throwdown.
Ooh, sure is a clusterfuck, that's for sure.
One old giant orgy.
Ooh, the worst kind of mind meld.
Mm. How about a quick soul bond?
Yeah.
We've been putting it off. Should we
Let's get into it.
get into it?
I got a lot of notes.
Yeah.
We got a lot of arcs.
Yeah, I
We
know
got a
these
lot.
chapters are going to they're gonna blend, but
They are. They will.
Much like
they most
Taylor's
certainly will.
mind.
yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
Let's
Um,
go.
Yeah. So, if you all remember the last time that we were here in Arc 29, Taylor asked Panacea to get inside of her head and to remove a block that could potentially inhibit some of her control. And so that's what Panacea did. So we open up with chapter 1. Taylor wakes up, comes to consciousness, and Tattletale berates her, and Marquis pulls everyone away. So all of a sudden, everyone's backing up from Taylor. They try to escape, but Taylor comes through the portal before then leaving on her own by choice. There's a lot that happens here, but that's the basic. That's the
Yeah.
basic of what happens.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm gonna recap a little bit more in detail, more so because not for our lovely listeners because they know what's going on, more so because I want to clarify to make sure I understood what was happening.
There's gonna be a lot
Good
of
idea.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, most certainly.
For sure.
Okay, so there's this moment when Taylor wakes up And she's kind of like thinking and like mentally being aware of the things that are happening around her while Panacea is like fingers in her brain. And one of the things that happens is that her range starts diminishing by like a lot. And it keeps going because before it was like a couple of blocks. Well, it keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it's about 15, 14 feet, I believe. And she kind of mentally thinks like, oh no, I don't want it to shrink anymore. And that's kind of when everything kind of goes a little wonky. And that's when Marquis steps in. What is happening is that Panacea is close enough that she's being impacted by what Taylor wants to happen and is then modifying her brain to those impulses that Taylor is thinking. Does that question make any sense at all?
Yeah,
I
it
don't think
does.
it's an intentional thing. I believe that is
Oh, I don't
just
think it's intentional either. But like, I got the assumption that while Taylor is thinking like, oh, not that, or like, ooh, do more of that, or like, oh, I don't want to lose my bugs, she's
Subconsciously.
thank you, subconsciously telling Panacea what to do in her own mind. And that's why Panacea is kind of like frozen there, just doing Taylor's bidding, basically, because she's no longer in control of herself because Taylor's power has
Maybe.
changed so much. Because that's what I
Maybe.
thought
I
about
don't.
that,
I don't know
but-
that I read it that way. Actually, I just assumed that Taylor thought something was going wrong when, in fact, it was just unlocking her ability to control any living thing,
Right.
or people, especially. Um. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's a question. I don't remember if it was
I'm
detailed
pulling it.
enough for me to see that. But
yeah,
that is
because
interesting.
like if that were true, that would mean that Amy knew the definition of stop, and I don't think that's in her vocabulary. So, I mean, at least she got
Wow.
consent when she started. So that's improvements, I guess. Baby steps.
That's what we call a big yikes.
Well, she has
Yeah.
these moments. I'm trying to find it. So she's saying, while everything's happening, she's also like mentally talking. And she's like, no, focus on the swarm. And the range is dwindling with every second, blah, blah. I need control, I thought. She pushes her focus out towards the swarm. She's aware of her body. She's aware of the other people. Things were normal. I need control, I thought. A moment passed and I could feel Panacea working to give me that control, changing what she was focusing on. And so I assume that that's her being
Oh.
like, this is what I need. And Panacea is in her range to be like, okay, I'll make sure that's what you have.
You know what?
That's at least
I
how I
hadn't
you
read
know
it
read it.
what?
like
No,
that,
that's
but
plausible.
I
Yeah.
I actually like that interpretation a bit.
Because then
Nice.
right afterwards, she gets shoved back because
Mhm.
her range is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And she's like, stop, Panacea. I thought, stop, stop, stop. And my swarm attacks her. It wasn't a conscious command. And she stops, pulling back and falling backwards in a clumsy way, which later we hear that when Taylor is controlling people, they don't walk like normal. They're very clumsy because it's
Yeah.
like she's
Yeah.
controlling the motor functions as well. And I just assumed that was all part of her being, because right after that is when Tattletale like jumps in and is like,
Mhm.
everybody back the fuck up.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is that Taylor is in control of Amy working on her.
Yes, which is why
Gotcha.
it makes me
Gotcha.
wonder if things went so wrong, because if Amy had just done it, I think it probably would have been fine. Like Taylor wouldn't have even had as much power as she did, but she probably would have had more control of herself because Amy would have at least added more safeguards. She would have been more careful, as opposed to Taylor, who's very much in a cut, snip, trim the fat mentality over the next
Mhm.
arc. And so that's
Mhm.
kind of the mindset that I was
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah. No,
I like it.
that's that. I like that. I think you're probably right there. That's something I hadn't even noticed. Um, I think it makes a lot of sense too. So what's interesting here, right? Is there speculation that Taylor has already had a second trigger? But
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
seems like what Panacea reveals is that she always had the capacity to mind control people. It just was limited by the passenger or by her brain in some way
Yeah.
because probably,
Mm.
the passenger safeguards, we've talked about those, right? Like if you get fire powers, you don't get burned by fire.
Right.
So I imagine the idea is she's even talked about before, like she's had to adjust to being able to use her swarm to see through her swarm. So her passenger was probably protecting her from like, oh, if you could take in this information from 100 different sentient life forms that are all human, your brain would
Yeah.
explode. So we're gonna keep you for like just bugs. Bugs are good; they're small. And she even talked about she can control crabs and other small
Yeah.
life forms. So,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but
Crustaceans.
yeah. I
So
guess
if we
she
want a
didn't
little
want to
bit
be
look,
crabby.
if we want a little bit of a look into her shard, the administrator shard, I believe it is the shard. It originally started as an evolutionary trait of controlling lesser creatures, like directly,
Mm.
but is the way that the entity or Scion specifically reshuffles and configures and controls shards.
Oh.
So when they're
Oh,
doing
interesting.
like,
Okay.
oh, which ones do
Yeah.
I throw out? Which ones do I keep? Shuffling
Yeah.
their giant shard bodies around. The
Mhm.
administrator is the one that picks the configuration and
Interesting.
does all of that shuffling.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um,
That makes sense. That makes sense. And because it makes
Yeah.
sense too, just the way that Taylor thinks, that makes a lot of sense. Um,
yeah.
yeah, that's interesting.
Cool.
Because
Mm.
when she
Like
does
it.
go, this is getting a bit later, when she does go into mind control mode, um, she is able to get an innate sense of what people's powers do, but she
Mhm.
sort of isn't able to know well enough to control them. She's kind of like, okay, I get an idea of what you do your thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like peeking into their shards almost. It also makes sense too because from the entity's perspective, humans are a lesser, being, whereas from a human perspective, a lesser being would be something on scale a lot smaller, like they
Right.
are to us.
Right.
Yeah.
I imagine also that, and I don't have anything for this, but from the sound of it, when she's moving her own body, it's like having to puppet a different entity almost. Like she's inside it, but to get anything to happen, she has to literally do the whole, oh, pick its arms up and move it
Yeah.
around because it's separate
Yeah,
from her. But the feeling I got was because of that shard, she is dragging all the other shards around, like, and the person kind of goes with them.
mm,
Um, there's some stuff that she
Mhm.
does later on that like we said, she's got a pretty good job of getting the people to use their powers, but like the motor functions of the body in which the shard is attached to is kind of whatever.
yeah,
Um, I think the biggest like weird thing for this is that she gets all of the tinkers to make an ultimate tinker weapon, which is a lot of brain power and like
Mm.
coordination that and small fine-tuned motor function that you wouldn't really get unless you were essentially dragging the shard like towards the machine and being like, do your thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the shard
yeah,
is by proxy doing all of the motor function kind of
yeah. She
for the
talks about it
person.
being kind of autopilot, where she's like,
Yeah.
okay, you've got your power, go power away. I don't want to think about
Power
Yeah.
it too hard.
away.
I can't think
Yeah.
about it too hard.
Yeah.
Which is really
And I think that's part
interesting.
of the learning process of she like stops because when she starts, it really is like trying to get it feels like she's trying to get zombies moving,
Yeah,
puppet style.
Yeah.
And then I get the impression that she is foregoing the bodies and focusing on the
Yeah.
shard attached to the body to drag them around.
Because I mean,
yeah,
that's what's important for her to like plan out her plan. She needs
Yep.
the shards and like what they can provide her, not the people that encompass the shards. Because
right.
the people don't matter. It's the shards. Like she even will leave certain people behind or drop them, not because of who they are, except if it's the Undersiders. Not necessarily who they are, but because of their shard, like what they can do. And like she couples people together because of how their shards interact, not necessarily how the people interact.
Mhm.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, it
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. specifically too here in this first area, it's interesting how quick Tattletale and Marquis pick up on what's going on.
Yeah.
Makes me think, obviously Tattletale's got her thinker power. Makes me think Marquis has seen some stuff probably with like mental control powers. He's been
Yeah.
around Teacher, so I guess he probably has a good sense of what somebody looks like when they're under some level
Right.
of control.
I also assume that like he's gotten to know Panacea.
Yeah.
And so he
yeah,
knows
true.
when she's like acting weird.
True, yeah. So
Mhm.
I generally I like Marquis in this arc because I feel like we
Me
get to see
too.
so much more of his power.
Yeah.
Oh
And
my gosh, yes.
just like the amount of things he can do, it's like, oh, ooh, whoa, that's cool. Like
Yeah.
even this scene where he's like trying to stop Taylor from escaping, he's making these like interlocking trees of bone. It's just
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
oh, it's such a cool mental image. There's a nerding out for a second. It's a filler episode, I believe, but there's a Naruto arc where they meet somebody who has bone powers, and it's very it's a very cool fight scene.
Mhm.
But yeah, it just kind of reminds me of that, which is like trees of bone, throwing it out everywhere. He's pulling people back. He's got her pinned to the wall. Um,
So cool.
such
I mean,
a cool scene.
and they would have got. It was so close to just getting away with it.
Yeah.
I mean, they had her
Whose
pinned.
fault was
like,
it?
They were so close. It's freaking Canary.
It was Canary's fault, right?
Canaries.
Because
Yeah.
Canary, because so
Ugh.
Taylor, not Taylor, freaking Tattletale is like, everybody back the fuck up. And Canary's like, Taylor, are you okay? And she's like, bitch, I told you. And then of course, like walks right into it. And then Taylor can then use her singing to try and pull in more people. Like,
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah,
Yep,
that Canary interlude paid off in dividends for this
Yeah,
last
right.
arc.
Yeah,
Ooh,
it really did.
one again, forgot that Canary gets used so darn much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Poor
yeah.
thing. She's just trying to.
She's just a
Poor
sweet girl.
Canary.
She doesn't have
She's
the
poor
battle
sweet
sense. Yeah. She doesn't have
She
the
just-
battle sense that everybody else does, right?
No,
Nope.
that like danger sense that's like,
Yeah, the
you
danger
should run
sense of,
now.
like,
She's like,
I
do
think
you
this is
need
bad.
help?
Oh no, Taylor.
Taylor, no.
But
Canary.
speaking of other people that give themselves up, the absolute trust that bitch has.
Oh my
Whoa.
gosh.
She just is like, they pull her out of the
Oh.
range, and she's like, no, like I meant to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's got a good
Oh.
reason, I'm sure.
Oh
Yeah.
my
It's
gosh.
so
Yeah.
good.
It's the loyal dog thing. Like, I don't know why
Yeah.
you're doing this, but I trust you. Oh
Yep.
my gosh. Okay.
Again, I will say this is another instance like we've talked about. Taylor is a narcissist, but it's almost justified because she keeps being freaking right. And I kind
Oh.
of hate it.
My God.
Yeah.
The absolute.
This is like the ultimate, like, I know better than all of you. Let me use you.
I have
Again,
a lot of thoughts.
it's why everyone loves Taylor, because Taylor is the character that we know that we would be in all of these books. You're like reading your story and you're like, no, you are so dumb. Just put me in charge. And I will fix it.
Give me your brain.
That's so funny because that's not how I read books at all. I'm like, man, I wouldn't want to be in her shoes.
Yeah. No, Taylor is the better example of that, because not only is Taylor the person who like, oh yeah, I would totally fix if they would just listen, but also she does things that I wouldn't even think about because
my
Wild goes
gosh.
that smart. And I'm
Yes.
like, oh
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
for
would
sure.
be the
Yes.
person that you would have to take over for because I'm not that bright.
Use me. I got no brain cells.
Puppet me. Puppet me,
Just-
bug lady.
Just passes over. Not this one. This one's useless.
Oh my God.
Not even as a meat shield. Come on.
Yeah.
Not even as a meat
You're just like, oh man.
I'd like
It's
to
like
think
you're-
that that's
Oh.
exactly what happened somewhere with Trickster. Trickster was just like, use me, make me useful. And Taylor just passes right
Cool.
over him.
No, Trickster did get used. Trickster
Yeah,
did
he
get
gets
used.
used
He
and
got
he gets
yeeted right into
used up.
Zion.
He did. Oh, I missed that. Did he get got?
Oh, he got.
got.
He got. Yeah.
Okay, good.
At the very end.
It's near the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple of
Um,
people who get got. It looks
Oh,
like.
there's
which we'll get to
a
later.
lot of people.
There's
who
a lot
get
of people
got.
that get
Yeah.
got.
I was looking at
And there are quite a few that I'm sure got, and I didn't realize it because at a certain point we stopped using people's names, and I had like these moments where I was like, I don't remember their power enough to know who we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I'm
There-
sure. I'm
there
sure
is-
Alan will help us.
Alan
yeah,
knows
there's only
everything.
like 2 sections that matter for that. The rest
Okay.
of them are,
Yeah, it's like the
we'll
last 2
mourn their
chapters.
loss, whoever they were.
Yeah.
No, it's funny we talk about Trickster because, especially during this first sequence, I get a strong Trickster and Echidna vibe from this whole situation, where like Trickster is aiding this, monstrous strategist in this, this big plan,
Yeah.
kind of betraying friends as well.
Letting everyone down.
So, real quick, now that we know about the entities and the shards, is there some just kind of this just reminded me of because we were mentioning Echidna, and since we're wrapping this up now, is there some theory that Echidna was like a burgeoning entity and was just trying to because she wanted to eat people
Ooh.
and stuff? Was she trying to like reabsorb shards? Maybe is kind of the feeling I get.
I know
Mm.
what Oliver's like balance does.
Oliver doesn't get talked about
Oliver
much.
would have been the other half of the vial that she
Yeah.
drank. His is the shard that helps the entity produce her avatar, which is why she's stuck.
Mm,
Why she never produced that, like the body. So
Oh.
it's the same way Scion turned into, the humanoid shaped Scion.
Right.
Oliver
Yeah.
is the shard that would have done that, but for
Right.
Eden to become Eve,
Huh.
Mm.
Wait,
which we'll get to later at the end.
Yeah.
I was about to
That's
say
very
because that's
important.
Back around.
mentioned.
Because that's very important.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll get there then.
Nice. Good question. That's interesting.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
eventually
don't know
Taylor
about
makes it through the door.
Echidna.
Because at least visibly she gives off strong Flesh Garden vibes.
Oh, for sure.
She does.
I thought her distortion had more to do with the fact that she only got half a shard, half a
Yeah,
potion
yeah.
vial.
Well, that is part of it. That is part of it. Yeah, she got all the power without the balance.
Yeah,
And Oliver got all the balance without the power.
without the power.
Poor guy. I mean, it made him handsome, so you can't say it was too bad, but
It's true. Just go be a
So
model.
that's the one detail I remember about Oliver is they're like, he's like weirdly good looking.
Like,
But like
suddenly
in an
incredibly
uncanny
good-looking.
valley way.
Got the
Just
bottom part of
handsome
the shard.
Squidwarding all over the place.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm glad we're on the same mental track there. Love it. Back to the chapter though. Like you said, Nick, they do try to escape. And they don't. Well, I mean they do, but Taylor also does. So there's no escaping. They just all go through the portal.
Yup.
Jesus. It's just delightful. I'm just gonna go on to chapter 2. Chapter 2, Taylor gathers her cape swarm, if we shall thus call them, from the battlefield, and the fairy queen has a message for her, reminding her to choose an anchor. Taylor gets some more info, then grabs Doormaker along with her, the other capes that she's got, and heads off to Teacher.
Okay. As a side note, before we get too deep into this, because this is where stuff gets to be interesting, I've got a fan casting for Teacher. And
oh boy, is it yourself?
No. Hang on.
Now I'm gonna have to look up whoever this is because I don't know names of people.
No.
Pulling up my search bar.
It
The Rock.
is.
You forgot.
The Rock could
Gotta look
literally
up the
play
actor's
any of these
name.
characters, and I'd be a fan.
Oh,
The Rock plays Canary. Fuck yeah.
David, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but David
Hasselhoff.
Costabile or Costabile. He
Constable?
is Costable. Yeah, he is. He's in Breaking Bad. He's in a bunch of things. He's in Suits.
Oh yeah, this guy.
He
Yes.
especially
Yeah.
just his voice and his mannerisms. He, I think, would be perfect for
I
teacher.
like it.
That's my fan casting for teacher.
That's a good
Having
one.
never seen him in anything, I don't know, but sure.
You not seen Breaking Bad?
No, I saw the first episode and hated it.
Oh dang,
Michael,
I
cut that
didn't
out.
watch
unfortunate.
As I say, we're gonna get rioted just for that.
Yeah. He's
Haven't
in
seen Suits either.
Suits as well. Haven't seen Suits. Okay.
Haven't seen
AI
Suits. I'm looking through his
voice
list and I haven't
essentially
seen any
loved
of
it.
these.
Yeah. If you just look up a few scenes of him in Suits, that's or even a few scenes of him in Breaking Bad, his characters in that's I think you'll see the vibe I'm talking about. He's got this very like, oh hello, like oh yes, like kind of this high pitched voice, but he's
Oh,
got
hello.
this. He can also have this really strong demeanor as well, like still with that voice and kind of these like goofy-ish mannerisms, but kind of that like, I'm sorry, I don't remember asking you a question kind of vibes that I feel like teacher would have. And I don't know. I think that's my fan
Alright.
casting. Just wanted to throw
It
that
would work. It would
I like
into
it.
the
That's
universe.
a
I'll
good
look him
one.
up.
Thank you.
I'll watch a
Thank
clip
you.
later.
He was
Good
the
job.
Anyways.
biker who in How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey.
He was the who?
The Who riding a bicycle.
I mean,
There you go.
I know who you're
Very
talking about.
important.
His most memorable
The
role.
Who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know the who you're talking about. I've seen that movie way too many times. He's in a green suit, isn't he?
I don't know. Just reading his
Guy
credits
on the
here.
bicycle.
Probably.
Never mind. All right.
Sounds
Sorry.
He
right.
also is in one episode of Robot Chicken as the voice of Gandalf.
Good for him.
He's in a
Anyways,
couple
on.
seasons of House, I guess.
Love obscure credits.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Back to 30.2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did anybody else get really lost in this?
Yeah.
This is
Like,
where it
and
got
I
a
mean
bit
more
hard
than
to
just
track,
lost.
yeah.
I mean, like, not for me. This I had a really hard time paying attention because this felt really boring.
I'll tell you right now, the only part I remember from this chapter at all, which I read like 3 days ago, is the conversation with the fairy queen. The rest I don't remember at all.
Yeah, I don't really remember who she grabs here, like hero wise. I don't even think she knows them, actually, now that I think about it.
Well, she grabs Doormaker and the precog that's like with
Yeah, the
Doormaker.
clairvoyant.
The clairvoyant, thank
That's
you.
at the end though. Before that, she gets like a small group and starts testing out their powers to fight Scion. And that's when she has a conversation with Glycygwinier, but I don't remember who
Right.
she grabs. Like
Well, I thought that was the whole thing. Is she's like literally
It doesn't
going
matter
from
to
place
her.
to place, grabbing powers.
well, that's later.
Yeah.
That's like after this chapter, she gets Doormaker and grabs people from all over different universes, even. But here, she's like just on the battlefield, comes into that old abandoned subway, and is like, "Okay, where am I? Let me grab you. What do you do? Who are you?" And it is very vague. I feel like it's very ambiguous, and part of it maybe is just that she's just testing out her powers, and of course, it's kind of similar to the interludes with the entities, where you're like, "What am I reading? Like whose perspective is this? What's going on?" Because Wildbow does a really good job of showing the degradation of her brain over time throughout this
Mhm.
whole arc, but it can make for difficult reading because Taylor's confused, and so you're like, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
a
just-
lot of this, because I'm just looking at it right now, a lot of this is like her recapping what's going on,
Yeah.
grabbing people.
Oh, that too, yeah.
At one point, she's grabbed a couple of the people that were running, and Acid Bath is like, "Oh, use them as meat shields, right on," which is like,
Oh yeah, I do. Okay,
Yeah.
I remember Acid Bath. I do remember Acid
Yeah.
Bath. I kind of like him.
yeah. And so there's she's like she's also like dealing with more, because with every chapter there's more of that degradation of the mind, like where things are breaking down more and more. So like here we're seeing a lot of this like memories are kind of jutting in every now and again. And one of the other people she grabs in her cape grab bag is the teleporter, the girl who does the circle and can teleport them. So she's collecting people and she's moving them kind of around the field in order to collect more people to her group. she's mentioned the teleporter. She's mentioned the tree girl. I don't know who that is. And in the meantime, she has this half conversation, this non-conversation with Glastig Wenye. But it's short. It's one-sided. And then
it's
and then they're
basically if you
moving
fuck
again.
with me, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Pretty much.
yeah. Oh, she okay, so again, I'm so sorry. I'm literally skimming through the chapter right now to try and remember what happens. So after her conversation with Glastig Wenye, she goes to the where Dragon is to get some more information about Teacher, and she has this like again another half conversation with Dragon about
Yeah, where she's trying to. Is this the one where she's trying to shut her off?
No, not yet. That's later. That's
Okay.
in the that's when they're fighting for the birdcage.
Once
she's
again,
like-
this chapter seems so redundant to the ones before and after.
It does a little bit, unfortunately. But this is when Taylor realizes she can't read.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she and Dragon are talking, and it's like, well, she's not talking, she's listening, and she's trying to motion to like the picture tabs on the desktop to get Dragon to give her specific information and like transport it onto her phone so she can take it to go. So she's trying to get all the information on Teacher is the point of this little flippy bloppy bit.
30.3.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, I will say there's a
Boymaker.
couple of cool small moments.
Boymaker, yeah.
Chevalier using his giant Buster Sword,
Yes.
enhanced by Endbringer tech, we believe.
Yes.
Based on the interlude, which is pretty cool. And Ingenue giving him a power boost.
Ingenue.
And then
His
Acid
new
Bath.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then
Acid
Acid Bath, I like just as he's very reminiscent of the merchants from early on, I think. So it's kind of a bit of
Mhm.
nostalgia there.
Yeah.
Where he's
Kinda
got that like,
greasy.
yo, rock on, dude, kind of vibe. And like really greasy and like just a terrible
Yeah.
person. You're like, I don't want to be close to you.
Like I don't.
I love
like
that his
this.
criminal history is just like anytime a girl like turns him down or
He just
Or is an
burns.
ex-
gets a new
Ex-girlfriend.
boyfriend, just like
Yeah.
how dare they?
Yeah.
Acid.
Yeah.
How dare they
Acid.
deforms their face. Great.
One
Love
and
that.
but the Buster Sword moment's the one that I really like. And Black Kaze and Acid
Yeah.
Bath are taking turns
Ooh.
on Scion, which I thought I'm like visually, I imagine that would be a really cool thing to
Yeah.
watch. You've just got this like blob of acid jumping up and down and blasting all around, mixed in with this like super precise, D&D monk type of fighting style.
So cool.
And Black Kaze
Right.
is doing some damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're with the blade and the Black Kaze and Acid Bath. They're actually doing. I feel like they do pretty well. Like every once in a while, we'll get a good collection of powers that, like, when they're all clumped together, they work really well at first. I mean, until they start to not. But like when you do find a rhythm, it feels like things are working, which is nice when things feel like they're working. Because the rest of the time, everything just feels
Well,
hopeless. So
And
Yeah.
there's a few moments like that because I mean they know that Scion's not infinite.
Right.
Like he does have to, like when the Siberian is just moving in and out of him. Eventually, Scion has to be like, okay, I got to deal with you. That does hurt a
Yeah.
little bit, So
Yeah.
those moments are kind of cool.
Yeah, there is also a brief moment at the end where Marquis kind of warns Taylor of like, look, if you go through with this, you'll be public enemy number 2. Like, if we
Yeah.
beat Scion,
you're next.
it won't go well for you. Yeah, you're gonna be next.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I gotta do it though. So that's when she grabs Joymaker and the Clairvoyant and they pop away.
They pop off.
Which, real quick on the clairvoyant, and remind me if she mentions this, or is it
Looks like
just
somebody's dying in my neighborhood
Someone's
again.
dying in
Oh,
our
no.
neighborhood.
Oh no,
Oh, there goes another one.
Man,
Say
old
the-
people.
It's an old people neighborhood. They dropping like leaves.
Tell you, one across the street and that,
Dropping like
like once every other week.
Dang.
I see
Dropping
an
like
ambulance
babies in
our
front of
neighborhood,
Taylor,
like,
right?
Like every no. Oh my god. Yeah, no,
You were saying,
Baxter.
Jacob?
Rest in peace, Aster.
Yeah.
Oh, I was saying, did they mention the fact that Taylor's ability to multitask helps her grab the clairvoyant without passing out?
I do have that noted, but that's in 30.3. So
It is okay.
Is it?
The next chapter. All right, let's go 30.3.
Okay, 30.3. Taylor attacks teacher and his group. They have a little short conversation. Then gets the key to the Young Bonds world. She proceeds to just demolish them, and then moves on to the birdcage. Again, a lot that happens here, but it's all mixed in with confusing one-sided conversations and a mental flow that makes zero sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, she's doing like this walk through every single place ever that she's ever been.
Yeah.
Which is
reliving
make
the
a great
greatest hits.
montage scene. As a quick aside, great montage scene, Jacob. Or what do we do?
Right. Yep.
Back to the other podcast.
Real quick, too, we didn't really talk much about her anchors either.
Yes.
That's because they don't matter like immediately.
No,
Yes,
they
true.
Anchors and then
they
forgets
do.
them so quickly.
No.
They're gone.
No.
Michael, where's Nahi gone?
Nahi gone.
No, her anchors. Well, with clairvoyant, she gets a better view of them, right? Because she's like, eventually, and I guess maybe that comes in 30.3. I don't remember. But where she's like, okay, Tattletale, bitch,
bitch, the cabin,
and my house,
and her mom's grave.
Or her mom's grave. That's what it was. Yeah, her mom's grave.
So those are
she's got all of those big
5.
ones. Yeah, those 5. And the only reason it's memorable is because she keeps repeating them, but she keeps losing them more and more over time, right? She's like, the blonde girl, the dog girl, that house on the hill.
Yeah, like immediately she's like, I don't know where my house is, and I know I'm looking for my mom's grave, but I can't find it.
Yeah. So when she first has her like anchor moments, she digs in with her bugs around the grave to like clear some debris and like kind of like make it nice for a second. And so she has like, because of the oh my gosh, help me out. What's Doormaker's partner?
Clairvoyant.
Thank you.
They just call
because
him
of clairvoyant. What'd you say?
They just call him clairvoyant. That's all he's ever known as.
So because of clairvoyant, she can kind of keep track on all of these places and then use the portals to like. So she's got the grave, the house, the cabin, bitch, and Tattletale. And I think the grave is the first one to go. I think that's in 3.3.
Yeah.
Where she goes to look for it and she can't find it.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's her trying to hold on to those. And again, because it is from her perspective, right, of her mind slipping into madness, her losing the ability to speak and communicate clearly is really interesting. And then she's losing reading. And then in 30.3, we learned she can't even understand English anymore.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, teacher said something in a foreign language. And then she realizes, I think that was English. Like, I can't even understand what he's saying anymore.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. Teacher being a selfish asshole as usual. What is he trying to do? He's trying to like rebuild. He's like trying to rebuild civilization already, right? He's like,
but with giving up charge.
Yeah, with himself in charge. Yeah. He's like giving up on rescuing the world, saving the world. He's like, we're not gonna beat Scion. I'm just gonna go and start rebuilding.
He's got like his compound or whatever.
Yeah. Well, he just he moves into Cauldron. That's
Oh, are they in Cauldron? Is that where that is?
Yeah, that's all he does is he moves into Cauldron and reboots Cauldron. That's all he's doing.
I thought they were in New York.
No,
that's what I thought
he's
too.
in No, because Contessa, with a Contessa interlude before
Oh,
this,
right.
talks about like they
Oh,
just start moving in and
yeah.
setting up shop. He's like, put the fax machine over there. And she's like, what are you doing? He's like,
The fax
I'm setting
machine.
up. This is
There's no
my cauldron now.
There's no electricity, but put the fax machine
You know,
over
you can
yonder.
stay on or we'll give you a nice severance. You know, pick one. Um, yeah, so that's
Yeah.
what happens there. And also he's just doing the same thing Taylor's doing, which we'll
Yeah.
get to later.
Yeah.
Why he kind of defends her / tries to take her over. Like,
Yeah.
he's just doing he's doing the passive version of what
Right.
Taylor was doing.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. Yeah.
Also, at one point in time, they're like, we've got to go deal with the Yongbon. You know, we've got to deal with the CIU. And I went, oh, not the CIU.
It's the C. Is it the CUI?
It's the
It is the
CUI.
CUI, except it's misspelled.
Oh,
Oh,
is
is
it?
Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't catch
I was
that.
like, so, you know, for us in the know, I was like, not CIU. No.
Take it down.
Yeah, and then we have her grabbing the hands and talking about like her not getting overloaded. Like she still has trouble adjusting to clairvoyant,
Yeah.
but you're right. She doesn't just immediately go into shock like some
Right.
people because she's used to having her consciousness spread over at least some distance. What was that?
Huh? Oh, nothing. I just had a tickle in my throat.
Was it a bug?
Maybe.
Could it have been?
Okay, so I understand the reasoning. So I mean, I understand her whole reasoning. It's take everyone. But like with the Yongbon, you can specifically get like 0, 1, and 2, which are like power enhancing powers to like help boost her swarm. So that makes sense. Get the Yongbon, incorporate them in, get the booster powers, whatever. What is the point of going to get teacher?
Well, she doesn't take teacher with her.
No, she doesn't. So what is the point of going to teacher?
Teacher had the key to where the CUI was. Basically, the teacher helped the CUI escape through a portal that was locked.
Right.
And teacher had the key. So
I missed that detail.
she kind of extorts teacher into giving her the key so she can go to the CUI. Because whatever portal technology they used, I think it was similar to what the Slaughterhouse 9 used when they went to another dimension and were kind of
like pocket.
Yeah, like a pocket dimension.
Yeah.
It was similar to that. Not exactly the same, but similar enough where probably only Scion could have found them eventually.
Right.
And so she's like, I need the key to that portal. And he gives it to her. And that's why she goes. She doesn't want him because she knows that if she lets him use his powers on her, it might give him some control over her, which she doesn't want because she wants the control. She needs to be the one in charge because she knows how to do everything right.
She's the only one who
and
knows.
everybody else is wrong.
My God, the ego.
But the problem
all
is
I can think of, and
I
Jacob,
know.
I
So
think you're
upsetting.
probably the only one to get this far. This is kind of like letting Asterion ascend, but then still keeping the mind flayer worm in him.
Yeah.
So that he's like, oh, I'll be free. It's only me in charge now. And you're like, yeah,
sure,
it is, buddy.
Sure. Yeah. You think that.
It's a Baldur's Gate 3 thing. I know that much, but that's about it.
No, I know Asterion. Like the hottest vampire
Stupid,
ever.
sexy Asterion.
God, what a bottom.
What?
Also, Gru's cabin that she refuses to look inside.
Yeah. Because nobody's
This
there.
is where I got my image in my head. When we talked about previously the argument of whether or not Gru is alive or died.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
This is in my head.
She does sense
where that came from.
multiple people inside. She does. She can sense that there are those people inside, but she doesn't look at who they are. There's no
Does
confirmation.
she sense multiple people?
Yes. There's at least 2. Could be more, but at least 2.
No,
and
I don't think it
still feel
says anything about people in the cabin.
she talks about sensing them.
No. She says
I
scenario.
found people. I found Charlotte and Forrest. That's immediately after the cabin, but she doesn't find like in the cabin. All
Isn't
she
it?
says is, "I
But
watched
it's
it from a distance and fixed its mind in my location, or its location in my mind."
there's a spot later. I don't think it's in 3.3. I think it's in 5, maybe.
Oh, okay.
But
She
there's a
says, "I
section. It's
imagine
when
them sitting there by a fireplace, curled up, like." But it's all her saying, "I imagined them this, that,
So
the other."
later, there's a section where Scion is too close to the cabin and she's freaking out. I thought there
Oh,
was a
okay.
section there because the ground breaks and she uses one of the teleporter thingies to like shield it off. I thought that there was a section there where she talks about them, but it's like it's not just like in her mind imagining them. I thought it was that she said. I mean, I could be wrong. That's how I read it as, but let's be honest.
Yeah.
There's
No,
a
I
lot of
mean,
confusing things. And she was
yeah.
halfway out of her mind, so like, yeah.
And
No, that was one of the
the
things I was
wiki,
specifically on the lookout for,
yeah.
because that's where I
Same.
draw
This
all
is
my
why.
Yeah,
Elias
This is why I
information.
thought that he was alive. The wiki does
Yeah.
confirm that Gru's dead. But
We've
yeah,
confirmed it. God
yeah,
damn
the
We
it.
wiki
confirmed
confirms it.
that on the
Yeah, we confirmed
oil
it on
rig.
the
We
while
had
back.
this conversation
We had the
before.
conversation a little while
I-
back.
I think I blocked that out. I didn't want to believe
Yeah, no.
it. All the signs
the wiki.
point to it.
If you
All
look
the
at
signs
the
point
wiki
to
for
it.
Gru, it's like, and then Gru died on the oil rig at Gold Morning. It's like, oh, it's right there.
No.
It's clearly spelled
So
out.
sad. So
Uh,
sad.
But yeah, no, I think
Yeah, this is
yeah.
the
This is
the
why I thought
cabin
he was
that all
alive,
of your
though. This is why I thought
grandparents
he was
go
alive.
to. This
Yeah,
is where
that
the
makes-
cabin where your
same.
dog goes to when it gets
Right.
old.
It's the farm.
No, I think
Up
well, no, I
country.
think the same. I think the same thing, Nick. Like I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
I just never picked up on that, and because Taylor is so blind to it, that I also assumed that this was like this
And-
had to be proof.
Because
Well,
you know,
'cause-
again,
yeah.
mental image of like reading this at like 3 a.m, like
Right.
you know,
Just-
I wasn't like I was Taylor in this moment of like
Yeah,
barely reading English, hardly understanding.
can't read English. Can't. I don't know where I am. I don't know where you are.
Somebody
We're
tries to
all
talk to me, and I just go, "Ugh."
The sleeper Ashby's. Then they use their thinker powers, and then
She doesn't.
side
She
for
doesn't
the
touch
well.
sleeper. She leaves sleeper
Yeah,
alone.
does sleeper.
no, I'm just saying words.
Yeah, we'll get there.
And then
Yeah,
that's
words.
how people hear you try
Okay.
and talk. It's like, oh no, they've got wormmentia. Oh no,
Amnesia.
we'll get you back to your room, Granddad. No, you don't understand, Scion. He's an
Fucking
entity.
Not the Tinkers.
I need you to identify. Is this your grandfather from the mid 2000s or your grandfather from 1960?
God damn it.
Anyways,
Okay, so we got to stay on topic here.
Yeah.
Okay, so after teacher, she goes to the young buns world and claims them before moving on to the birdcage.
young bun.
Young bun.
There's no need to be down. I said,
Young
young
bun.
bun. Let this girl control your brains right now. That wasn't my best work, I'll admit.
That's it's late. It's fine. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Then we
Mhm.
encountered Dragon.
Yes.
Are we getting into
Not
30.4
Dragon.
now?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
getting into
Is that
4.
4?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I
Yeah,
didn't
it's
put 4.
So
You're right, just to blur
30.4.
together.
Dragon shows up on the mountaintop, basically where the birdcage is, to stop Taylor. They fight the drones against the swarm. Taylor starts attacking all of the like data banks around the world, and Dragon fakes her death and breaks Taylor's control. And Taylor's pretty convinced that Dragon's dead because of it, which is just oh my gosh, I
Oh, so
lost my
sad.
I lost my shit. But Taylor comes through. She gathers more capes from the birdcage, the goddesses world, and others. She comes back, fights the fairy queen, and wins.
Do they ever say goddess? I thought they said the woman in blue.
That is correct. This is pulled straight from space battles,
Space battles.
battles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
summaries, because I can't remember half of the shit, and honestly, I count on space
Yep.
battles so
that
much.
is her name, but I don't.
They don't call her that
Maybe I
for sure. I
mistake her
can
that.
no.
I'm-
I can tell you right now, they do not call her that. They call her the woman in
Okay,
blue.
because I don't believe she gets that name till like later.
Cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
sure.
That's fine.
I have warm. I'm not gonna remember.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
going to happen is we'll be reading Ward in like 3 or 4 or 5 months from now. She'll come up again, and Alan will be like, "We talked about her," and you'll be like,
We're like, what do
"We
you mean?
did."
No, we
Yeah.
didn't. No, we didn't.
Yeah.
You can pull up this
Um,
clip.
Drew
and-
died. What?
Yeah.
Drew
Yeah, yeah.
died. I'll
Drew's
block that one
dead?
out too. Drew's not dead. What are you talking about? He was in the cabin.
Guys, we've been reading Ward for a while, and I got a question. Where's
Drew?
Taylor? Where's
Taylor?
Scion?
No.
Do you guys like
I'm
this
not,
feels
I'm
weird?
not
guy.
that stupid. Come on.
Where is
Where am I?
Guys,
what
I'm
happened
sorry.
to Cauldron?
Where's Coil?
Yeah,
Look.
Dinah's locked up, right?
I did think, what if we just pulled shifted dissecting worm? We pulled the worst idea ever, and just at the very end of the final episode, it just pans back out to Coil like collapsing that reality, being like, nope, nope.
Oh my God.
Fantastic.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. So this is where it's the end of 30.3. She moves to the birdcage,
Yeah.
starts to talk to Dragon. That's when she realizes she can't understand English. Then the real fight is in 30.4.
Yeah.
This is again one of those like confusing fights where I kind of get what's going on, but
I started
Yeah.
skimming a bit.
yeah. And then Dragon fakes her death. You know, the power bank's dying. Taylor basically says the phrase "clever girl."
Yeah.
It's close enough to a Jurassic Park reference for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, really interesting
throws
little
up.
fight here.
She throws up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
she's
will
broken
say,
up about that.
yeah, she's really upset
That'll be
because
the
like
only time.
I was gonna say the only person, which is funny, right? Because her whole thing, person, quote unquote, which is a funny irony where she's like, literally the only person who ever tried to help me was not a person.
Mhm.
which is false again because everyone tried
Not
to help
true.
her all the time.
Yeah.
Taylor,
She's
come
a
on.
bitch. God damn.
Taylor.
It's literally the scene from what's that Disney movie where the guy's walking down the hallway and he's like, everybody hated me. It's like, hey man, you want to go play
Oh.
baseball? Like, hey, you want to hang out later?
Oh,
Yeah.
Freaking
Yeah,
Meet the Robinsons.
Meet the Robinsons.
Yeah, meet the Robinsons.
Yeah.
She's like, nobody ever helps me, and everybody's like, Taylor, you need some help? Like, hey, we can work together on this.
No, I can't. I'm Batman. I mean Taylor. I'm Skidder. I'm Weaver. I don't know who I am.
What's his name? Freaking Goob, right? It was
Yeah,
Goob.
Goob.
Yeah.
Damn it.
We love
Taylor's
Goob.
such a goob.
Yeah,
So true.
yeah.
God damn.
But yeah, so she gets into the birdcage though and starts grabbing
does.
people from everywhere. She grabs Ballistic and Sundancer here too, right?
Yes, she
Yes.
yoinks them right out of
Yoinks
Eartha Left.
them right
Love
out.
that we get another just dissing how trash Eartha Left's heroes are. These guys are barely C tier.
Yeah.
worthless.
Would not even compare.
Well, Trickster's in like a penthouse.
Well, no, Ballistic.
Ballistic.
Ballistic
Wait,
is
it?
yeah.
Trickster's with
Trickster's
teacher's
with
ass.
teacher. Trickster is
Yeah.
with teacher, yeah.
Remember, he's dumb.
Now
Ballistic.
she took
Yeah.
Trickster from teacher,
Yes.
it seems like.
Yeah. 'Cause she has
but yeah,
him.
no. Yeah, she grabs
she goes-
Ballistic and Sundancer.
She makes her
Yes.
way through all of them. She's like, Earth Aleph, Earth Bet, Earth Gimel. And then she's like, the Earth of attractive people. Gotta
Yeah.
get some of them. And then Earth
Earth
of the
of all the
woman in
good-looking.
blue.
Yeah. Wait, is the attractive people in the woman in blue world not the exact same one? Because I thought
No, they are not. As far as I know.
Look, I'm barely hanging on.
It could be.
Yeah.
You want.
Trying to think.
And then she goes to Sleeper's world, where we finally get a glimpse at Sleeper. And he's
Sleeper's
just-
reading to
Like
himself.
that.
He's just
It's my
Thanosing it
favorite
up.
thing.
Yeah.
I like to imagine it's a really simple, like children's book that he's reading, like Dr. Seuss
Yeah.
stuff. You know,
Yeah.
one fish, a two fish, a red fish, a blue fish. Just like
He's doing all the
on his
voices.
Yeah.
porch. Yeah.
You know what I imagine too is he's got this like really nice like 2-story bungalow with like a great green grass yard, and it's just like a square, and then everything else is just this like warped, blasted landscape of nothingness.
Hannah, can you pull up that Star Trek episode where they go to the one house that's perfect on
Yes.
the scorched
Yes.
Earth planet?
Yes.
And they're
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly the
that's
mental image.
weird. Why are you guys all right?
Okay, yeah,
That's
so
like season 2.
That's like season 1.
Season
yeah,
1 or
so
2,
going
yeah.
through it, I'm looking back at the arc too while you're finding that. With the birdcage, she gets 743 individuals added to her army.
Damn.
Holy shit. I can't believe they left
yeah.
that many still in the birdcage. Like, I know the reason why, obviously. But like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's a lot of heavy hitters.
Scion is tearing into Alexandria, so I think Pretender probably dies.
No. She yoinks Pretender.
She
does
yoinks
like
Pretender. Yep, she yoinks Pretender.
Yeah.
Well,
She
I
uses
think he dies
Pretender
later.
all the way up to the bitter end.
She gets she goes for a bunch of insane people. Old Capes, wounded, retired. She gets Glory Girl. Oh,
Yes. Oh my god. We have to talk about that. Okay, hold on. I gotta
Yeah.
pause my Star Trek thing. Here, Alan, you find it. The pulling her out of that is such a like this is you just pulled Blob Girl out of her retirement and dumped her in the
Sure.
middle. Can she do anything? Like, can she function? I'm sorry. Look, I haven't seen her in a while. I don't know if Victoria is alive in there still.
Right.
She hasn't just like checked out.
She is alive and she's still in love with Amy.
Motherfucker.
I think it's briefly mentioned later when
Yeah.
Amy and Panacea and Glory Girl meet again. So yeah, so she grabs Glory Girl, grabs some members of Bonesaw Slaughterhouse 9, clones who had escaped, who'd been left behind, mannequin damsels, knight, hag, Nyx, hybrid, crawler, breed, hybrid.
The hybrid.
Grabbed Sundancer, forgot Genesis as well, Genesis and Ballistic. So Sundancer and Genesis gave up on the hero life. Ballistic is a hero in a penthouse.
Yes,
which
in a
I love.
Yes, yes,
Fully done up in costume. I love
because
that.
he's the best thing since pre-sliced bread there.
Yeah. Yeah. Whole worlds with only 10 capes, half of which were case 53s. Mixture of capes, all incredibly beautiful people, all in what was obviously a global position of power. Every flag that flew in their world was the same flag.
The
so we get
same.
It is the same
and then a blue costume with
and it's
white
on the
fur at
same
the
as
collar.
her.
Yeah, a blue costume. Yeah, the woman in blue resisted me.
Right.
So she's there. Got Canary back. Trying to think. I gave her the benefit of the young one. I'm trying to see if there's any other
The
worlds.
Survivors is the episode you're thinking of.
Okay, Sleeper. I could see him sitting on a lawn chair reading a book out loud to himself. Which, again, all we know about him, more trouble than he was worth, I let him be. Because, again, all we know is that earlier they said, we gave Sleeper one of the Earths, and he's just going to have that one. That's his now.
Is this, are we going to meet Sleeper? Like, okay, is this one of those things where I can look up Sleeper and find out stuff? Or is this like Sleeper's going to take a huge, part in Ward or some shit?
I will warn you, Hannah, I have looked it up. There's a lot more about him in Ward. I don't know how big of a role he plays, but he is in Ward. I went to his wiki page to look up something, and I saw like involvement in Ward, and I'm like, oh nope, scroll up. I'm not going to read that. So he's in Ward.
Yeah. He's so interesting. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm just going to close all 4 of those tabs.
Sleeper Rule 34. Gone.
No.
Save that one for later.
For a little bookmark. That one.
Yeah, she does. She does start losing her mind a little bit here. She remembers.
Oh yeah.
Names, but one of the things that's interesting is that she talks about how it seems like her shard is trying to reinterpret the feelings of other people she's controlling. And so like she gets this wave of like, oh, my grandmother. And she's like, well, not my grandmother, but I'm reminded of the concept of
of
grandmothers. The grandmothers in the abstract, as it were.
Right. Right.
And then eventually she gets Glycygwenya here at the end.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, I don't think I mentally realized that she did, because Glycygwenya breaks. Okay, so she gets Glycygwenya after this kind of kerfuffle, scuffle moment. But Glycygwenya breaks through the control by utilizing her ghosts. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So basically, Taylor Khepri can now, instead of like latching onto the Glycygwenya shard, as I don't know what Glycygwenya's shard is, but I imagine it's kind of in a vein of an administrator.
We can
Of like,
talk about that later or now if you'd like.
we could talk about that in a second. So basically, but Glycygwenya is able to shift that control or that focus, like to slide past her to the ghosts, and then can exist within that bubble that Taylor's created, that 14-foot radius, and not be controlled. Yeah.
At least not as easily at first. She has
Okay.
to. And I think this kind of lines up with what you're saying, Alan, about um, Khepri being able to latch onto shards, but not people. Because what Glycygwenya does is she collects shards, I would assume, to an extent.
Yeah.
And then she's able to kind of shunt Taylor's control power to the shards that she's using at the time until she finally does grab her. And this is also where she gets Alexandria Legend and Mordnog as well.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh my God, Mordnog. Oh boy.
Let's get Glycygwenya's shard real quick, because that does seem
Yeah.
like it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
do
talk
that.
about
So,
Glycygwenya here.
She's got basically the opposite shard of Taylor.
Mhm.
Taylor is Scion's shard that like controls and shuffles shards around. Could argue be say that it's the one that it's the one that controls and configures them.
The administrator.
The administrator. Glastig's is the collector. So when you go to a planet, you have the administrator shuffle the shards around and throw them out, and then the collector grabs them all when you're done and compiles them.
The Hoover and the librarian.
Is that what you're
Yeah.
going to call them?
Why not?
I like
Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
they are literally the beginning and the end of a cycle.
Okay.
In
That's
a
cool.
sense.
That's cool. I've got a pretty, I was gonna say a hard on for Glycygwenya, but I don't like that. I really
It's
like
fair.
Glycygwenya a lot.
Have you seen the depiction of her like cool ass outfit?
She is very cool. I mean, so not
Sure.
in the sexual capacity, even though I did initially say hard on. I just love her. I think she's so cool. I love the way that she sees them all as fairies, like the ghosts as fairies. I love the way that she talks to Taylor. And like even in this moment where, she gave her a little bit of advice earlier about the anchors, like staying in control, whatever. And now Taylor is like turned her eye, and Glycygwenya is like, "Welp, I will end you." And I like, oh, I love that so much. It's like that dark sorceress vibe, which is just, I'm a
It's
fan.
funny. We talk about the parallels between them again, at the end where, they are sort of the beginning and ending of a cycle in a sense. Uh, but also Glastig is a parahuman who has essentially let the shard control her.
Hmm.
She has very very closely mirrored what Taylor had to artificially produce. And then as later on is like trying to give control to the shard sometimes. That is what Glastig has like felt, I guess, pretty early on, that like the shard is there and has ceded a lot of control of herself to the shard, which is why she's so weird.
I can see
Yeah.
that.
And also
When
why she like
they talk about
killed
that
a
later
bunch of
too.
people and was like collecting them because she was like, yes, they've reached like max power level. It's now time to reap them, to
Wow,
compile them.
that's crazy.
Mm.
Contessa kind of talks about that in the last chapter in this arc, where she's like, "You awoke," and not to. We'll go to that more later, but just saying, the part where she's like, you awoke something human in her that she hadn't felt in a long time.
Mm.
Kind of like
Mm.
Taylor did something that reminded Glass-Steagall of her humanity instead of her entity-ness.
Interesting.
I'd
Because
like
there's
to
a
think that she scared her straight.
yeah, basically. Because there's a moment where like Contessa admits like everything kind of hinged not just on you, but on Glass-Steagall not doing something.
Yeah.
Because she could have stopped you,
Dang.
basically. But whatever, basically her saying like whatever you did, you convinced her not to, and you
Mm.
awoke something in her. So
That's
that is
great.
kind of cool. Yeah, she's a really cool character. Um, Definitely one of the interesting ones. Yeah, one of the very interesting ones for sure.
And then that line at the end of the chapter, finally everyone was working together.
Gosh.
Taylor?
You remember?
So good and so ominous.
Do you remember back in like a long time ago when Regent was controlling people and was controlling Shadowstalker, and we were all like, "Yeah, this is icky. This is gross. We don't like this." Not just because he was being creepy, but also just like you controlling people and them not having individuality anymore and control over their bodies or how they move or how their powers work. Like, it's really gross. Like, it was so. I think when that like clicked in my head, the line with like, oh, and everything's working perfectly like a clock, like that all of a sudden these aren't people anymore. This is like part of the machine you've built in your head. Like,
Yeah.
I think this whole arc just gives me this like sense of like yawning disappointment in Taylor. That like we've come so far. We've done so much. And like this is everything is finally in place for Taylor and finally the most out of place for everything else. And it's like,
Might even say
oh,
in the end it doesn't even matter.
doesn't even matter.
I will
Yeah,
say though,
Regent punching air from the grave.
yeah,
Right now.
Regent's like, yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
And
Regent's just
Regent
like, all
controls
the
one
shit you
person.
gave.
That's bad.
You gave
Meanwhile,
me so
Taylor
much-
turns around, controls 1 billion people.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're just gonna let her do that? Oh, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, doesn't she end up having like a couple thousand in her control?
Oh
At
yeah,
what
Or like
point?
2,000 or something.
According
that's about
to the
1,000.
wiki, 5,400 max she had.
Lord have
Oh my
mercy.
God.
I'm about to bust.
Yeah,
Wiki is accurate.
400 people.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
but not to
No wonder
spoil
she
the next
lost her
chapter.
mind.
Well, I was gonna say also not to spoil the next chapter, but no wonder Doormaker's power went out. Like,
Oh,
goddamn
No
man
shit.
had
And
every door open in
Mordnog?
the universe.
Yeah. Poor guy. Oh my gosh. Found the bottom of the well with that one.
Yeah.
Golly.
I will
Also,
say,
I don't know
will
what
say
hate
is-
we're giving Taylor. She, like, I would absolutely do the same thing in this case. It is the end of humanity.
No.
yeah.
No, bro.
That's the thing, right?
It's
Is
literally
again,
you are on satirical side. You're the reason humanity deserves to die. I will drag you into existence, kicking and screaming.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is again, it's like, icky Taylor controlling everybody. But again, she's right. Like, that's the thing. It's like everybody does need to coordinate for them to ever have a chance of beating Scion.
Yep.
And there's
Yeah.
no way humans can think
There's
fast
no
enough
way.
and talk fast enough and
Yeah.
overcome their own dumb prejudices enough to do it. She's like, I have to make you work together. I will say though, this ominous last line, finally everyone was working together, really gets undercut by the first line of the next chapter, where she says, now for the clincher.
Yeah.
The words are going at this point.
this is one of those moments where like you just know the wrong people are going to get the wrong message about these types of characters, where they're like, see, this is what I'm saying. You just got to give one person all the power in the world.
No, see,
The one idiot.
Here's why it works this time.
Yeah,
That's because she cedes power when she's done.
You're right. Well,
Yeah.
Nobody.
It is.
In real life, nobody else is doing that.
I mean, it is to bring it to a real world thing. It is kind of like how, if you go back to the system of like a monarchy, right? If you have a good, like a king who's a genuinely good person or a queen, man, they could make their country a great place, like amazing, like, doing all sorts of great things for the common folk. But then the next guy is just an asshole, then it all goes into the shitter. And it's like,
Yep.
it's that the amount of power you give is relative to the amount of damage and or good a person can do. And
Mm,
unfortunately, the reality is you give power to people and they end up using it for selfish reasons.
yeah.
There's a conversation in The Legend of Galactic Heroes between Yang Wenli and I forget if it's not Reinhard.
What's
No,
Legend
it
of
might
Galactic Heroes?
Legend of Galactic Heroes. Reinhard and Yang Wenli, who are like the two opposing main characters.
What is
I'll
this?
pretend like I
And
know who they are.
Yang Wenli comes from a
Is this a
democratic
game?
rebel group. No, it's a show.
Oh, I
It's
don't
like
know
a
what we're talking about.
250 episode anime from like the early 90s. Um, and so he comes from the
I
yeah.
remember.
So Young Wen Lee comes from a democratic rebel group, and Reinhard is uh, eventually the leader of a very fascist, empire. Uh, they're both really good people, good main characters. And at some point in time, they finally get to sit down and talk their ideologies. And Yang Wen Lee says, like, I could never give up, the freedom that people have to elect their people. And he's like, look at all the good I can do. Now that I'm in charge, though, this is Reinhard. Now that I'm in charge, I have total control of the empire. Like, I can, make things incredibly good, yada, yada. And Yang Wen Lee goes, yeah, but what about like your son or the next person in line or whatnot? Like, you can't make that promise that the next person is going to be as good as you. Like your word doesn't count for that much. But I can make the promise, as an elected leader that the next person will also be elected. Like that,
Right.
that even if they're not good or bad, like there is a time limit for them, that there is, that the people still have the power to make sure that the next person is what they want them to be, you know.
I mean,
And
unless you have a split population and half the populace makes bad life decisions.
well,
Should
there's a
cut that out,
lot of
Michael. Don't
politics.
leave.
There's
Don't
a
leave
lot
that.
of
Don't leave that
politics
in the final.
in
Take that
Legend
shit
of
out.
Galactic Heroes that has to deal with that kind of stuff. So maybe y'all should go watch it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
really, really freaking good anime with a lot of talking about governmental and political
Yeah.
decision making and a lot
Similar.
of yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Similar to the villain of the first Mistborn book, um, was a hero before he became a villain with a similar ideology. Not to spoil too much there. That doesn't spoil much, but yeah, very similar of like, well, if I just have all the power, then I can save everybody. But
Yeah.
ultimately that power leads you to doing bad things.
You either
Like
die a hero or you live
live
long
long
enough.
enough. Yes.
I was thinking closer to Star Trek. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts
All
absolutely.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
classic.
Um, but
All right.
also in practical matters, like when it comes to giving people, authoritarian control, like you do that for more intense scenarios. If you are in a,
Mhm.
in ER, in the hospital, you don't argue with people or, ask questions about stuff. Somebody says, grab that thing. You better grab that thing. Like lives depend on it. Like there's a reason the military is the military for a lot of reasons. It's because you need people to exert a strong amount of authoritarian control in a situation that demands that level of response and non-questioning obedience. Um, and in this case, I would argue it is the end of the human race. It demands that level of authoritarianism, which
Perhaps.
of course should be dispensed for a short amount of time
And then
and then
dispense.
and then done away with.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the power should be distributed according to the scenario.
Makes sense.
Very good. 30.5.
30.5. Final battle against Scion. Taylor gathers her all, striking, losing herself. Finds a weakness to foil. Bastard becomes the false entity, and the Doormaker's power dies.
Mm-hmm. So I figured out why you thought there were people in the cabin, I think. At one point, Taylor's taking stock of, maybe this might not be it. Taylor's taking stock of the capes she has and doesn't have. And at one point, she says, she thinks to herself and says, well, okay, I don't have Contessa, can't find her. Don't have the blasphemies. They're not really human, even if they had powers. I don't have Sleeper. And then she says, the ones in the cabin,
Yeah,
I decided to leave them be. I was having trouble remembering why, but I trust my older self on that score.
maybe that's what it was.
So I think it's that feeling of like, oh, there's somebody in
they
the
are
cabin.
there. Yeah.
But it's just like in her mind, it's
It's
like
in
she's
her-
locked in. There's somebody in the cabin, but she's gonna leave him alone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah.
And she
but this
protects
is-
it too.
Yeah, she protects it later too. This is where she grabs Ash Beast as well.
Yes.
Who is an
Woof.
S-class threat, but is actually just a person inside of a giant firestorm. That's cool.
This is
I mean,
things I
sucks for
forgot. I
them, but
forgot that
cool
Ash
ideas.
Beast had an explanation. I forgot that Sleeper like gets
It's
shows up. Like I
little
thought
name
those
drop.
were things left a mystery, and I
Yeah.
completely tossed this out of
Love
my
it.
head. I guess at 3 a.m. when I'm rushing through.
This is really where the utilitarian part of Taylor comes in, though, because again, it's that I'd use him, referring to Ash Beast first. If he died, the world wasn't worse off for it. If he lived, well, I could discard him, leaving him on a foreign Earth. Just like, And she uses Trickster specifically to get him. So
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
so that's
right.
part of where.
And then it has like the little bubble inside right next to him so that she
Yeah.
can have the portal there.
Yeah, smart.
And then
Also,
smart
in
article.
terms of memorable losses, we lose Lady Photon.
Yes.
Yeah,
lose-
that's
That
right.
whole
We lose
fucking
Lady
family.
Photon and we lose somebody else with Lady Photon. Who is it?
I don't know. They're not as important.
No, she said she
as
specifically
Photon Mom.
remembers them because of Lady Photon and because of
would it have been Brandish? Like,
find
what
it.
is it? Both of them? Or
no, it's
Nope. It's
Okay.
just her, Sarah Pelham.
Photon mommy.
I know. Photon Mommy
Photon
be
Mommy.
gone.
Revel as well.
No.
Revel. That's who it
Revel
was
gets
because she
got.
has this
Yep.
moment where she's like, "Oh shit!" I knew Revel. Like Revel was good to me, and
Yep.
Lady Photon was familiar.
Oh,
That's
she
what she
grabs the
says.
number man at some point as well.
Yes, she does.
Because she uses him. She
Oof.
finds a world that has thousands of nukes, and she uses him to aim them at
Yes.
Zion.
drops
I assumed
them
it was
all.
just Earth
It's
left.
fantastic.
I
Is that
assumed it's
Earth
just
left?
Earth left.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Is
just
that
our
just
Earth.
ours?
It is ours.
Yes, it is just
Damn
ours.
it! God damn it!
100%.
Nuke 'em.
That would make sense. Oh man.
That's funny.
Woof.
And you know,
I love
and that
it.
brings up that good question of like, why don't you just nuke Scion to oblivion? And guess what? She did.
And it wasn't
No.
enough.
God, the scale of this fight is just massive.
crazy.
I know.
Crazy.
But it becomes a little bit too much for people, and they start stroking out.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Mord Nog has a stroke, and Taylor is shocked. And I'm like, how? How are you surprised? You're pushing these people to their ultimate limit and their
Yeah.
mental state. They're trapped in their own bodies, forced to do a bunch of shit that they don't want to do. And also, that is like physically pushing them. And then you're surprised when one of the heavy hitters has a stroke. Like,
Yeah.
what? This is what
Speaking
we get
of
when
heavy
we use
hitters.
people, Taylor.
I asked a question, I think last one, which is how many power steep can we get this to go? And the answer is Taylor controlling Tohu, well, Tohu being there, and
Yeah.
Tohu puts on
Uh,
Glastic Wenye and Eidolon
Yeah.
faces.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's a lot of powers.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of powers. gets intense up in here.
Yeah.
And then I have a
So-
note that just says this fight is going on 5 ever.
Yeah, it is long.
It does.
He's the
more
big
than
bad
forever.
boss.
Couple of name mentions. Safara is an Indian cape, part of the Thonda. He's
Mhm.
the one who creates like a connection to spatial elements. He's the one who helped fight against
Mhm.
Kansu to
Yes.
pull them away
Right,
from
right.
Kansu.
Oh,
Kansu's
no,
time
it's
bubble.
to take them with Kansu.
Oh yes, to take them
It's-
with Kansu. Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
the-
So they can stay with
teleporting.
Kansu when he teleports. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Labyrinth and Scrub begin making portals.
Mm-hmm.
And Alexandria / Pretender dies. Which is another big one.
Ripped to shreds.
Yeah, fragment. This is one of the most brutal descriptions. Is
Yep.
fragments of Alexandria's body tumbled to the ground more like a statue than flesh. He had to flex his hand and use his power to free it of the left side of her skull. Like, damn.
It's the imagery.
Brutal.
Yeah.
God damn.
We need to talk too about the fact that we know from interludes and things like that that the shards have enough like energy reserves to use their powers consistently for thousands of years. Like it's estimated like I forget what the number is. It's several thousand years they can use their powers. And Kepri burns through Doormaker
Yep.
in what is essentially a
10
few
minutes?
Hour
like
tops.
yeah,
10 minutes.
maybe. But they
I-
explain why because Doormaker's power only opens a stationary portal, and she has to make them move. So
Yeah.
she's like infinitely creating portals every nanosecond to
Yeah.
like move them.
As it like
crazy.
shifts over 1 millimeter, shifts
Yeah.
over another millimeter, except it's
Mhm.
going like zoop as she's
Yeah,
ugh.
Right.
crazy. Or Doormaker.
Yeah,
How-
and then Doormaker dies because
Yeah, burned them up.
I don't.
No,
Does
Doormaker
he
does.
die?
Glycig Winye kills him and takes
Oh.
his power.
Okay.
takes
Takes him.
Yeah.
I was like,
Okay.
I
Later.
didn't think he died immediately. I
Well,
thought
Not immediately,
he
no.
doesn't. No, he doesn't die.
No, he doesn't
immediately.
die
He just gets
immediately.
shot.
Glycig Winye
Because-
just kills him eventually.
Yeah, because Teacher gives
Wow.
him the ability to talk,
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
and he's able to tell Tattletale what Kepri is
What the
doing.
plan was, basically.
Yeah, what the plan is. Yeah. So
And then
I
Glycig
so
Winye kills him.
so okay. So if
For
we're
some
talking
reason.
about the tapping into the well thing,
Mm.
so Doormaker runs out of juice basically, and so then they give him the thing ability to talk, and he's like having his little conversation. Then Glasiguenye kills him and can use his shard.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically she takes the shard and taps into new juice.
I think that's the implication because the implication I always assumed was that like the entities when they're on a world anticipated going on for thousands of years, but then they recoup their shards and move on to the next world. So like at some point in the process, they can re-energize the shards or something to that effect. I would assume since they can go from world
Stick
to
him in a
world.
wall charger. So.
Yeah, little
Stick 'em
Roomba,
in the car cigarette later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There you
exactly.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is also, like you noted in the summary, she notes that Scion is afraid of Foil, which is pretty unique.
Mhm.
I don't either. I didn't pick up on that, or I don't understand it. So I need someone to explain it to me.
We'll get to the explanation in a bit because it's going to take some backtracking.
Okay.
Basically,
Because
He-
Foil.
yeah. Foil raises her arbalest at him at one point. She puts it down, but Scion has a reaction to it, even though she puts it down. Where it's like he goes to kill them, Taylor saves them. Yeah, it says Foil started to raise her weapon slowly. Scion blasted at the smithereens.
Yeah.
Because it's very unusual as well for him to be so focused on one like weapon and power. So there is a There's a moment of
Hannah,
emotion that
I have a
that Taylor
step-by-step
catches.
explanation for this if you want when we get to the death of Scion.
That's fine. I'm
Okay.
looking up something else. So
Yep.
Ooh, we're getting good. It's getting good.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, are we at?
Flechette and Foil. I always think they're two separate people. So we're talking about Foil. We're talking about Foil, and I'm like,
Flechette.
Foil is not the one with Parian, right? So that's what I was looking up, by the way, for
They are the
Alan's
same
information.
person, yeah.
They are the same person. Lily is her name.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did like the
Bunch of names.
yeah. I did like the idea of them turning Bastard into looking like the other entity
Yeah.
as a distraction. I was like, that was cool.
Yeah.
Also, was
That was
Bastard?
cool.
Bastard's alive.
As far as I know.
I think so.
Because so at one point Taylor looks over, and it's so hard because we can't understand anything. She looks over and Tattletale is talking. Tattletale's doing her phone thing. And Bitch is like hugging Bastard who's laying on his side. And I didn't know if he was like dead and Bitch is like hugging him because she's sad. And then all of a sudden he's like the big, garden. And I was like, okay, well, is he Deadzo? And we just like amped up his Deadzo-ness.
I think they just transformed the extra shell around him.
Okay.
Because that's like all this excess biomaterial. And
Because
they used that as a mold.
Right, because we've talked before, it's not lab rat, because we talked before about how lab rat's juice doesn't work on the dogs.
Correct.
Did it not, or did
Well, we
they
don't know
not?
if it
They
does.
just-
Lab
they
rat's not
assumed
dead.
it
Lab
wouldn't.
rat's probably
Lab rat's
dead.
Deadzo.
Lab rat's dead. He died on the oil rig. Pretty sure.
I'm
Gotta keep track of everybody.
getting more and more
Yeah.
confused.
I don't believe it's confirmed, but also who
But
the hell
Bastard,
knows?
Better
but
not
it's
be.
not. So Bastard is not dead, is the point here.
That's what I'm going with.
Okay.
If he is, I can't forgive Taylor.
Yeah, grown large by the bizarre interaction of lab rat's formula and then cosmetically altered by Panacea. Given
Yeah, it
a
is
handful
lab
of
rat's
special
formula.
effects. Yeah.
Wait. Okay, wait. Hold on. But we've talked before about how lab rat's formula didn't work on the dogs.
No, they just didn't try it because Taylor advised they don't try it because they didn't know what it would do.
Yeah.
I could have
I don't
sworn
think they
that
ever
they
said it
stuck
didn't
him.
work, but
No, they have a whole. Well, no, there's one point in time where there's a conversation about like trying to get the dog to like.
Yeah.
I forget if like one of the vials breaks or something, and it's one of those like sort of with
You can't drink it.
Dr. Mother.
Yeah.
Where it's like, do
Don't
we even
drink
want to
it.
try licking it off the floor or getting
Yeah.
the vial all?
Well, that's the whole
Mhm.
thing about licking it off the floor is a Dr. Mother thing.
Yeah, but it's one of those type scenarios where I think it broke, and they
I
were
don't
like,
think it
"Ugh,
broke.
is it even worth applying?"
I mean, that makes sense if they were just like, we're not even gonna try it because we don't know what it's gonna do. Because I don't think. Oh Lord. Okay. You know what?
Yeah.
We're making it. We're getting through it.
yeah. Some cool moments. She gathers a bunch of capes like Sundancer, Chevalier, has them make their weapons big, and then grabs Vista and is like, make it bigger.
Taylor
Make it
realized the real
huge.
answer wasn't just that people weren't working together; it's that they weren't nuking
Going big
Scion hard enough. They weren't hitting him with big enough weapons. That was
Yeah.
the
Right.
real
True.
secret. Because
Yeah, and then-
dropping stuff from space didn't count.
My
It's true.
Dropping
Then
stuff from space.
the Endbringers come in here one more time. Simmer, Leviathan, Bohu, and Tohu. So
Ugh.
Tohu doesn't just have Glycig, Wenye, and Eidolon. She also has Mirrodin, who
Yeah.
also had an assortment of powers.
Yep.
Right.
Like Tohu is literally picked, and we don't know how intelligent the Endbringers are, but Tohu has literally picked every Swiss Army knife hero, like from the big ones that we
Yep.
know.
Yeah.
One of these is gonna work, just sort of.
Yeah, surely.
Okay, hear
Surely.
me out. She picks Eidolon and then she brings more Endbringers.
See, that is when it goes like, how deep can it go, right? Where you summon a Glycigwenye who can summon a Glycigwenye who can summon a Glycigwenye.
Yeah.
Right.
Nick, I know you have that magic deck on file, ready to play.
Yeah.
And that'll be the end of my first turn.
Yeah.
You fool, you've fallen into my trap card. It's more of a
Isn't
Yu-Gi-Oh
that
thing,
just
but yeah,
the-
same idea.
Isn't that just the
Yu-Gi-Oh.
moo, the cow?
Yes,
my
it is
cow
the
turns into
cow
cheese,
game.
which turns into the dairy
Yeah.
And I
farmer,
can't
which
tell
turns
you
into
how
Now, when
much I
I-
want to play that game.
It's a Pro ZD for those who don't know.
ZD. Yes, thank you.
We get to see the Furies and how their power work, like part of their power works, I guess.
Whomst?
They're up there with literally Sleeper and Ash Beast. It's like,
Okay.
oh, and the Furies, like they're also an S-class threat.
Yeah, I forgot
And
about them.
except I think they're European based. And they say, like they're not worth bringing in. And then I think at one point in time,
They're not
Cauldron has them up in one of the little booths. But I guess if you don't get all of them, the other two can always regenerate. So you
There
have
you
to
go.
kill all three of the Furies. Otherwise, they're never ending.
Oh, interesting. I do love like little name mentions, right? Because I'm scrolling through the arc to find where you mentioned the Furies, and I just come across a line that says, she finds a Vietnamese cape with a tinker ability that makes formulas to boost strength. She leaves Chevalier alone, leaves Crawler alone, but doses Lung and Menya. It's just like Menya gets randomly mentioned once, never mentioned again.
Well, Fenja
Yeah.
died, right? So it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
Menja
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And just
But just again, that like one mention, I was just scrolling through, I saw Menya, and I'm like, oh, there she is, and she's gone.
Once again, Taylor just thinking
Wait, does
bigger
she die,
equals better.
or is she just never mentioned?
No,
again?
no, I don't think she's mentioned again. Is all I mean. I don't know if she dies or not.
Who the fuck? Sorry, I'm getting a little salty now at the fact that we've approached the section in the arc where nothing makes sense. I don't know where we are. I don't know what's happening. I don't know who's alive and who's dead. We've got to the part where Hannah might as well have not just even read it at all, because I don't know what's happening anymore.
Yeah. We'll get to the end of this, and I'll tell you how what I remember the first time I read this, and it's
I need a
drastically different
TLDR.
from the actual story.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Good.
TLDR of what happened in Alan's
Oh,
brain
it'll be
versus what was
real
actually
quick
written.
because it's Taylor takes control. Everybody, she realizes she needs to use the alternate powers, not the main ones, like the passive abilities. She does something to Scion that involves summoning
Are you doing the
Eden,
recap
and-
right now, or are you telling me what actually happened?
I'm almost
No,
done.
don't do it now. Don't do it now.
And then a lynch mob comes after her, and she fights them off and dies. That's what I remember. Except that's not how that happened.
Close enough.
Like, I
Fair
remember
for
her
your
being on
presentation.
a stage and like the mob like literally being like, what do we do with her? That didn't happen.
Stage.
I don't know. I don't know where this comes from.
Alan read a different book.
Yeah.
Once again, this is the first time I read
So did
this.
we
First
all.
couple times I read this, I guess. We're all at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
I got Wormsheimer's.
That's
Don't
fair.
remember.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go on to chapter 6 because
Please do.
I'm losing my mind like Taylor is, and also I'm getting tired, which is making me grumpy. Chapter 6, Taylor despairs as all are gathered. That's right, they're all stranded in New York.
Mm-hmm.
She then sees the light and hope. She gathers a few, taunts Scion with, it says Eve. Is it Eve or Eden? I think we said it was Eden.
Eden, yeah.
Yeah, okay, it says Eve here. She taunts Scion with Eden because they're turning the whole city into Eden. And then finishes him with Foil's power.
Oh, yeah. We come full circle.
Yeah.
So I had to look up for the first time how they did this. Because even after having read this for like the 4th time, I didn't understand what the hell was going on.
In relation to like the final fight, or in relation to
Like
the middle bits?
how they killed Scion.
Okay, good, because I'm gonna need that
I
explanation.
think I got it. I think I remember getting it early on, or the first time I read it, at least
You
vaguely.
lucky
So
duck.
we'll get there in a second. I just wanted to mention before we get to how Scion dies,
Yes.
Leviathan dies. I mean,
Yes,
he's an
Leviathan
Endbringer. We don't care
dies.
too much about him because he's not a person, but
Well,
Almost all the Endbringers die.
he
Yeah.
a lot of them do.
The
Well,
Most of them.
except for the important one.
the one
except
that
for the
matters.
important one, yeah, the one that she fakes her own death, which I love
He
too.
does.
She
You
fakes her own death.
rascal.
You little rascal.
I
I
can
mean, I
never
don't
be mad at
know.
you, Simmerg.
Yeah, I think Tohu. And which one's the tall one? Tohu or Bohu?
Bohu,
Bohu.
I believe, is the
Okay, so
big one.
Bohu is dying but is okay. Tohu is gone, missing. And then Kansu is still around. It's just like healing
Just-
somewhere in a time bubble.
Mhm.
Yeah. He's like
So-
secluded himself off.
Yeah, so I don't think most of them die though. I think it might just be Leviathan, it seems like. It may be Tohu and Bohu.
Or
He
Levy.
does go out with a bang though, because he uses his scary fin to do like
Yeah.
one good slash and then like plummets to earth all
The old
broken up.
Manofin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way to go out.
Yep.
There is this moment right at the beginning of 6. So after Doormaker's power dies, a bunch of the portals obviously stop working. And now there's like a mob. The first mob as opposed to the second mob.
The first of many mobs.
The first mob. And Taylor's like deposited herself up on top of a building
Mm-hmm.
and is trying to like coordinate from there. Oh, another thing here that I hadn't realized, and it's not in here, but I'm saying it now. Imp is with her. Imp is like talking to her in her
right.
ear this whole
Yeah.
entire time.
Yeah.
She's with her for a while.
A
Which
long
is so
time.
cool. Yeah, I love that so much.
It's really nice because Imp has proven herself in these last couple of arcs, like has really proven herself to be a character that I like a lot.
Well, I love that at the end of the story, it's still the Undersiders together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just with her to the end, you know.
Okay, don't say Jacob. Don't say
All right.
that. I
Not
can't
ready
start
for tears.
crying. No. Not yet.
I'm with you to the end of the line.
Undersiders of Rohan.
Okay, look.
Death. Nick, do you want to go? Because I have it's funny. I'm not going to say that like I got it how Scion died, but I got it thematically. And I'm curious what Nick also thought.
So my sense of what happened, and I think I got this the first time vaguely, but the second time it was a bit more clear to me. The whole problem with killing Scion is that they don't have access to the world where his flesh garden is.
Mhm.
They didn't have access to the true entity. They just had access to the body. And eventually, if enough damage had been done to the body, it would have killed the entity, but they would never have gotten there because of how much time it takes. So my understanding is the reason why Foyle's power was so powerful in conjunction with some other powers is because it essentially broke reality. Because remember, Foyle's power or Flechette's power has the ability to basically defy the laws of physics and bolt into anything. So when it hit Scion, it bolted into where his real body was. And that opened enough of a doorway for the giant gun the Tinkers had been making to shoot into Scion to hit his real body, not his projection. Massive laser beam into where his real body is, blows up everything. Projection dies, Scion dies. That was my understanding of what happened.
That makes sense.
Once again, Nick, this is the fourth time I've read this. I don't remember this weapon at all. I don't remember Foyle being here at all. I literally remember that like Taylor bullying Scion to death. He could have committed suicide. As far as I know, in my head, that's what happened.
Yeah,
That's funny.
is that
I
not?
They
don't-
do
remember
emotionally
any of
abuse
this.
him first.
They
Yeah,
do
they do
emotionally,
emotionally abuse
they
him.
emotionally scar
I
this.
need
this man.
some genius made that one that's like Taylor bullying him, and it's like, first off, your shoes are whack. Second, you have no bitches.
She's dead.
She's dead. Also, we're gonna make a giant version of her corpse for you to look at.
Yeah, so that's what they kind of realized, right? Is that although the entities were powerful on one level, they had never actually suffered. They caused
Mhm.
people to suffer to make their shards stronger, but they
Motherfuckers.
themselves never suffered.
Mm.
So encountering suffering, that's why Scion was so easily tilted, was because he'd never suffered before. He
Yeah.
didn't know what anger felt like. And so yeah, that distraction, I do love that strategy. And let's be honest, we're coming full circle. Taylor
Right.
started off the story being bullied, ends the story as bullying God.
Hey, it worked.
Classic anime
God
story arc.
damn it. Yes, it's classic.
Listen, like Alan has said many times, sometimes bullying is needed and good.
No.
It's true. I'm glad you remembered that lesson, Nick. That's
It's
All you
true. I tell
listeners-
that to Charlie, my
listeners.
son, every day.
No,
That's right.
Charlie.
That's right. He's such a good boy.
Oh, he's such a good boy.
Michael's gone.
Michael just
Michael just
faded away.
vanished.
Oh, Michael who? Oh, Imp, you're back.
Okay, but
wait.
yeah,
Hold on.
So they-
Clarifying
go ahead.
question about the end of the end. So I thought that they did a ton of damage, enough damage that Scion was basically like, nah, I'm gone. And then blew himself and the planet that they were on up. And that's why they were like, we gotta get the fuck out of here.
so that does happen, right? They switch planets because they emotionally abuse Scion so much. He hits the fuck it nuke button, but he doesn't die. He doesn't die from that. He just nukes everything in the planet they're on, which kills a bunch of them. But Taylor's able to she uses, like, they have different portal makers basically who are like, even though door maker's down, they have other ways to get to other Earths, and they're like, oh shit, and everybody yeets themselves
Right.
away from Scion as he goes
they
nuclear.
just keep.
And then Scion comes to the new world that they're on, and then that's where the final battle happens, where they kill him. But I believe.
What?
So
Wait.
first off, I think every time I've thought that explosion did kill him in the past,
Yeah.
that like he did
I
commit
100%
alien
assumed he.
seppuku.
Wait. No, I gotta
No,
look
he
at the
didn't kill
chapter.
himself. He didn't kill
No,
himself.
yeah.
I know that now, but only because I had to take very detailed notes and look up some stuff. Would you like the breakdown
worth it.
finally?
Wait.
Yeah.
Hold on. No, I wanna let me just think about those.
Yeah, so they're on one Earth, and then Taylor
in New
says we
York.
need to. They're in New York, and Taylor says we need to get back to our original Earth. So they open an Earth, a portal back to the original Earth. Scion goes nuclear, destroys everything.
Uh-huh.
And then
In the original
let's
Earth.
see, yeah,
The one that
and
Brockton
then they
Bay
go
was
back
in.
to Earth Bet basically.
Yeah.
And then let me see.
And she does
there's
her little
flatness to
pinball
portals.
through the portals.
Yeah, I saw Scion just barely recovering. Appeared. Yeah. Opened a doorway to Scion, capturing people, made a bunch of portals. She grabs a bunch of people because what she realizes is it's not the people who, like, the big powers, right? It's not going to be Sundancer. It's not going to be Mord Nog. It's going to be the small powers. So she grabs Number Man. She grabs a shapeshifter. She grabs Foil. And yeah, those rods became projectiles in another's hands. That's Foil. His hope was gone. He was bewildered. He was scared. He didn't try to dodge. He couldn't or wouldn't. They impaled him, one in the head, one in the chest. And then basically, yeah, so I discovered why he was concerned about the power, Foil's power. It kept things from being contained. So he's like contained himself in this one universe. Foil's power
Oh.
rips that open so this interdimensional gun with a portal can shoot into the earth where his real body is. So he doesn't commit suicide.
But he also kind of allows it to happen
He
in
just,
a way.
Yeah,
So
he's
he
like
gives up the will
so
to live.
yeah, he
Yeah.
gives it up basically, yeah. But the nuke it button he pulls that destroys a bunch of like a whole world that's not what kills him ultimately.
He basically is Eidolon at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Taylor said, "You needed worthy partners.
opponents.
You
Yeah.
needed worthy opponents.
I do
So you
love
needed a
that
worthy partner."
Yeah.
all the remaining travelers have a pretty big role to play here, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because Genesis and Oliver, and then I'm under the assumption, I guess I might be making this assumption. I read it as it was Ballistic that actually fires Foyle's bolts. Like she powers the rod and he
Yes.
fires them.
She puts
It
her power
is.
on him and he
Okay.
shoots him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
Mm.
all of our travelers get a little bit of fun in the end.
And
And
Trickster's
I-
dead, which is what we wanted
I
from
say,
him
correct me
anyway.
if I'm wrong, but at the end they swap out Trickster for Oliver, don't they? At the last moment and blow him to smithereens?
Maybe. I can't
I
remember.
thought she didn't. I thought she.
Or did she seal
left
off the world
Oliver.
with Oliver in it?
Yeah, I didn't think she took Oliver.
She switches Trickster out with somebody at the last moment.
Yes.
I just can't remember which character because she's like, Trickster,
Yeah.
Fuck it.
why not?
Boom.
Yeah.
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 I
Well,
like
we've
to
got
imagine that she let go of control of Trickster right at the last second.
So he
Yeah.
saw it
Mm.
coming
I mean,
and couldn't do
if
anything
she was
about
cut
it.
off the portal, then yeah.
It's what he
Yeah.
deserved.
Woof.
Just close
At
the
least it was a
portal.
quick
Yep.
end.
Too quick for him.
But Alan, if you want to go,
Aw.
if you want to go into detail,
'Cause this is a whole section in my notes.
yeah, go for it.
So first off, we got a bully with the changer powers. She picks,
Yep.
all the people, Labyrinth, all of them who can. They're manipulating the landscape, just general images, trying to make it look as Eden
as
as possible.
Yeah.
Simurg actually gets in on it and does all the clouds.
Yes.
Once again, why she's best mommy. So to cap it all off,
Biblically
she
accurate,
throws
mommy.
Oliver through. Oliver,
Sorry.
on his own,
Wait.
has been adapting.
So the Simurg pulls Oliver through.
No. Simurg's doing the thing with the rest of them.
Okay, when
Okay.
you say she, you're going to have to be more specific.
Taylor, sorry.
Okay.
Taylor's our main she in this case. So everybody is under her control except for Simurg, and they're all manipulating everything to look like Eden, which is making Sad Boy real sad.
Uh-huh.
So he's so depresso espresso. To cap it off, she puts Oliver through, whose face has been changing on its own to look like Eden. Or I guess specifically Eve,
Right.
the avatar she was making.
Oh.
Because his shard is the power of what she was using to become Eve, the singular humanoid unit.
The projection.
So he, during this time, I guess his face is just automatically shifting towards that. So when she throws him out, his face is essentially while maybe not a perfect replica, she said it was changing to look like Eve. And Scion might not even have to recognize that because he sees her shard, specifically the Eve shard,
Right.
which is what she was becoming, and it's dead. It's a dead shard. And so it is the most her shard, and it is dead, and she rubbed his face in it. So that
Oliver
is
hit him with
when
the smolder.
Okay.
Yeah.
So question.
Yes.
When she first saw Oliver and she left him behind, was this like I'm waiting for the moment to pull him out and use him? Or was this just like, he's not important, I'm going to leave him over there, and then later was like, oh shit, no, that's actually important, I need to bring him through?
I'm trying to remember all the different, because there's so many things happen over and over again in this. As far as I know, she could have gone back to them 3 or 4 times. I don't remember.
There is one funny moment here too, where before all of that happens, she's trying to recollect people, and she gets to the to Fault Line's crew with Dinah, and I don't know if it is the paper that says I'm sorry on it, but she hands Dinah a piece of paper, and I'm like, okay, if it is that paper, how did you keep that on you? First of all, but like that's some like anime magic moment of like, because she says she has it in her belt, and I'm like, you got blown in half on the oil rig.
She kept it in her belt this whole time.
Like, didn't you get a new outfit since then too?
No,
Didn't you get
same
the
belt.
back outfit?
It's the same belt. It's
Same
all the
belt.
same accessories.
Same belt.
Oh,
It's
she's
a
got
damn
her-
good belt.
It's attached to her flying jetpack, right? I mean, if she's
Sure.
had the jetpack this whole fucking time, and you got to keep the matching belt.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to remember.
At this point in time,
go ahead.
Oliver causes him to go nuclear. Scion to go nuclear. They try to close as many portals and get as many people out as they can. Some of them are left open, and the explosion comes through, which is why they got to throw up shields, and it goes over them. But they eventually seal them all off. Then they pop him back open to where he is, and he's in the fetal position, being a little bitch.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And that is where they use Foyle's ability to imbue 2 iron rods with the Sting shard. The Sting, I guess, is something that gets mentioned when Scion, in his interlude, points out, whoa, she starts to pick up her arbalest, and he's like, whoa, that's the Sting. Gotta not touch that. And he mentions a little bit there, which is essentially it's an old weapon, an ability used on us. He says it's old weapon from the gray planet, from our home world, used on us, used by us. So it is an old shard. It is an OG shard that they essentially killed each other with. So he knows that is, that is something that has been killing us, that we use from the way back when we were little worms.
You go, man. Should have tampered with that one a bit more.
Yeah, so it's got
probably
some history.
shouldn't have carried it with you.
Yeah,
dumb bitch.
Well, you never know when you're gonna have to shank a bitch.
Check off Sting.
That Abaddon came by and rubbed up on your girl. Maybe he whips out Sting.
Yeah.
Just I say.
Glows
He
when
should
Abaddon
have
is
stung freaking Abaddon or whatever.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All I'm saying
when Abaddon's nearby
is
right?
Abaddon stung first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Foyle uses her ability to imbue the rods with the Sting, which specifically, it's not just that it breaks containment, but her power when it pins stuff, it pins it in every universe. It is when she shoots something, it is not just there, it is everywhere. You cannot escape that through trying to do some planar travel. It is an all-consuming shot. So she imbues it. Ballistic, of course, fires it, which pins the opening, which is Scion.
Right.
Yeah.
So he is opened in every universe as well, technically speaking. And then they fire the giant Tinker gun, which they fired once before and it failed.
It didn't work. Yeah.
And I couldn't get a lock on this in my head, but did she leave them to make it a second time?
Yes.
Are they uncontrolled when they make it the second time?
In 30.5 and 4, one of those two, she talks about setting the different groups to different tasks.
Yeah.
And she gives Defiant the right to shoot it the first time when it fails.
Yes.
But when she leaves it, she realizes, oh, they finished that on their own, which is sort of a sign of maybe humans can cooperate when they realize what the real goal is, which I'm going to give Tattletale some credit. We don't know, but I would guess that Tattletale maybe called people and was like, hey, this is what we need. Do this and we can win. A bunch of Tinkers working on it all at once. And then not only does it get fired into Scion's well, but Taylor then moves portals around basically to bounce the beam back and forth through the entity to make sure that it just completely wrecks it.
Obliterates him.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get that part. I got that like it's a giant beam and it was only going through the one portal, and so she opened more portals next to it so the whole beam could fit through essentially, patchwork style, but
Yeah.
they were like, overlapping portals so that the whole of the beam would come through rather than
Yeah.
like a
Based on the
giant
way it
beam through a tiny
reads.
hole.
Yeah, based on the way it reads, it says the beam tore into him and into the well. I moved the portals and the beam turned to scour more of the landscape beyond Scion. Kind of gives me a sense of like using the portals basically to extend it into where the entity's body is.
Right.
Gotcha.
Because then in the end, it's just like this like mass of flesh and wasteland. The
Chunks.
dead remains
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, all the Tinkers speak the interdimensional ram, which Defiant fires into the opening. But yeah, that is Also, the fact that it's called an interdimensional ram, a battering ram into
Yeah.
his dimension, because it's not necessarily that the sting is what's opening it. It's what's like pinning it there in reality, so that the interdimensional ram can blow through reality
Right.
into that world and destroy it.
Yep.
Nice.
And that is how they killed Scion. And I feel like I've read this for the first time.
Yeah,
It's pretty
it's pretty epic. Somehow I got that idea from the idea of like, oh, they shoot it into Scion and it goes through into where his real body is.
Yeah.
I think maybe the reason I have the mental image of it pinging too is because I can for some reason I feel like there is something like that where I don't know. I'd have to think more about it. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool, man. What a way to end the greatest enemy to humanity.
Good Lord.
Beautiful.
Oh, we have one more chapter.
One more chapter.
We're not done yet. Chapter 7. The world doesn't make sense. Taylor's completely out of it. The strangers stare, they shout. Another stranger approaches, another appears. The fighting has no blood. This is straight from Space Battle, so I don't actually know what that means. She flees, they chase. There is a door, she walks through. Contessa has a chat with a girl.
Yeah. So they're not, from what I got, they're not fighting, but she can't figure that out because she got like dog brain now.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
all celebrating, right? Like they're shooting,
Yeah.
they're like going,
Yeah, they're all
"Pew,
celebrating.
pew,
They're like
lasers, fireballs.
she
Oh.
my
And
assumption
they're
is that
hugging and jumping up and down
yeah.
and
Oh.
Yeah, my assumption is
Wow.
that
Didn't get that at all.
Taylor's mind like reverts back to like base animal instinct and all that's there is and maybe even it's a bit of the influence of the shard too because it's like taken over her mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They just killed an entity so the shard's thinking, "Oh my god, they all want to kill me."
I'm
Maybe,
next.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she probably still does have in her mind what Marquis said, which is like, a sort of mental trigger of, "Oh, we killed big bad number 1. I'm big bad number 2."
Yeah.
So maybe there's that too, where it's like that's all her mind reverts to is like, oh, I gotta survive, I gotta fight,
Instinct.
I gotta keep myself alive, that base instinct. So yeah, she doesn't recognize that she thinks to herself, oh no, everybody's killing each other, humanity, they're so dumb. When in reality they're celebrating, they're grabbing each other, they're like hugging.
Oh my gosh.
They're like shooting fireworks into the sky. They're not fighting each other. They're like, oh my God, we did it.
because
Because
it talks about they separate into
part of
little
it,
groups and they're like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, this must be some like long grudges that they'd like instantly turn to combat with these people that they've known for so long.
No,
Yeah.
They must have planned this the
I
whole
took
time.
this 100% for granted. It's so much sadder knowing that.
No, it's
Yeah.
totally this is
Oh
where
my God.
I mean this whole arc, and we've talked about it for all of Worm, where Taylor is a bit of an unreliable narrator. This
Yeah.
one turns that unreliability dial up to 1,000%, basically, where her mind has just gotten so devolved she doesn't even see that. Because you have to remember too, at the end of when they actually kill Scion, she's not even controlling everybody and forcing them to kill him.
No.
Like
Mhm.
she's just done the base level of what she needed to do to tell everybody how to kill him.
Yeah.
And for the most part, like they do it themselves. I don't think it's unclear how much control Taylor actually has over like Defiant and Foil and Ballistic. Doesn't seem like she's even controlling them. They're just doing it because that's the plan.
Well,
Um,
she doesn't have the portals. Glass Egwene has the portals.
yeah, exactly. She has some portals because she had Labyrinth and
Yeah.
And Scrub.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, not I mean, yeah, I think again the Tinkers completed the weapon on their own. Basically, she did enough to get them to cooperate to where they could finish the fight, is what it
Yeah.
came down to.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is where I thought like I see I'm in Taylor's head.
Yeah.
According to me, Wild Bow did the perfect thing, which is in my head, they instantly turn on her.
Yeah.
Like some people are speaking up for her, being like, "Whoa, she did what she has to. She's not a complete monster," and everybody else has pitchforks and torches.
Yeah.
And
That's how I read it.
like at the last possible moment, she runs away.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really happen.
It doesn't
Like,
seem
yeah.
like it.
Well,
So
correct me if I'm wrong, real quick. But essentially, what happens is some people around recognize her and that she's kind of dangerous, and they all keep trying to coax her to like calm down.
yeah,
yeah.
And she
exactly.
sees all of them as a threat. So she runs through the crowd, picking up whoever's nearest by to like shield for her as she's like booking it. And they're all trying to just stop her from freaking out and taking control and doing weird stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually she just sees the portal and
Well,
is like, I'm safe.
Imp at one point like reveals herself
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
to basically be like, calm down, it's okay. Because she keeps reaching for the knife and then not, and then reaching for the knife and then not. And it's Imp basically
Yeah.
in her head being like, you don't need it. It's okay. You don't need it. Like everything's
Well, yeah,
fine.
she's literally
everything's
like
good.
putting her hand on the knife,
Right.
like putting like something stopped me from pulling the knife out.
Right. And then all of a sudden, Imp is visual and she takes the knife and she puts it, like pins it to the roof of Imp's mouth. And
Yeah.
now that Imp is visual, she can control her now and she like pins her in place.
Yeah. Gosh, Imp babysitting Taylor to have a modicum of self-control. What is wrong? What is going wrong with this world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
even
yeah.
is
So
living?
so this is where like she realizes what she's been seeing isn't completely real either.
Yeah.
Because she thought
Mm.
that she was seeing people kill each other, but then she says, like, wait a second. In that riot, that mob, there was no blood. The girl I'd cut wasn't bleeding. The people in the crowd weren't dying. Only the hands and arm held out for the knife to slash were weeping with blood. Only the older injuries from a short time ago. So
Yeah.
basically, the only like she tries to slash out at somebody. I don't know exactly who it is who's trying to talk to her.
I assumed
But
it was Tattletale.
I think it was
But-
a guy though.
Okay.
Pretty sure it was a guy.
I mean, it could have
Mhm.
been Golem because
Yeah,
she uses
it was
Golem.
it was him. It might have
Yeah.
been
At one
Golem.
point in time, she
Might have
goes
been
back
Golem.
to, I think Fault Line's crew is back there again.
Oh, we see
And
what's his name?
Yeah,
With the orange skin?
Oh, Neuter.
Yeah, we
Neuter.
see Neuter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Neuter and what's the other
Shamrock.
guy?
Shamrock.
Not
and
Shamrock. Who's the big guy?
Gregor the Snail.
Yeah, Gregor the Snail.
Gregor, yeah.
Dinah.
Dinah.
Yeah. So she tries to grab a bunch of people. I'm even convinced here she thinks she's controlling people, but she's really not. Like her power now has like shut down essentially
Yeah.
and isn't really working because people get close to her, but she can't influence them. Like if they're close enough for her to swipe with her knife, but she can't control them, then clearly something's gone
Yeah,
wrong.
because it's supposed to be a
Mhm.
14-foot radius.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think she's kind of, and I think she's like running away, and
Yeah.
everybody's like, "Wait, Taylor, no,
Yeah.
come back."
You did.
We get to see, Marquis flying as well. That was something we didn't talk about
Ooh.
earlier.
I've
Marquis
never been
with
a
the wings
Marquis
of
fan,
bone.
Oh,
Wings of
but
bone.
holy cow. Also, what the fuck?
pretty cool.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, great
Uh,
skeletal bat wings. I'm like, oh yeah.
oh
Well, here's the thing. Legend and the woman in blue are also both trying to hunt her down.
yeah.
Yep.
Because there's something. No. She takes over
Narwhal, maybe?
Narwhal. Narwhal comes down to get
Oh, he
her,
Narwhal.
does, yeah.
and she takes over Narwhal and puts up shields
Shields,
everywhere, and then
yep.
Legend blasts through that
Right
like
through.
immediately.
Yeah. Right.
Because Narwhal's like climbing up and over to try and get to her, and then she uses another guy to like basically pull her down, and then she's within her influence. Because she like
Yes.
lands on the
That's
dude.
right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Doesn't she use someone specific though to pull Narwhal in? I felt like it was someone we recognized, but maybe it wasn't.
I'm trying to remember
It's
who
all
it was.
it's all
Yeah,
blurred.
it's very blurry. And she
And then she
Step
has does she have an interaction with she has one interaction with Glastig-Wenye before she goes through the portal.
She also has one with Teacher, where Teacher and
Yeah.
his minions
Oh,
show up.
Yeah.
Where he tries to offer her the
Yeah.
ability to speak, if
Oh, he steps
he'll let
in.
him
That's
use
right.
well, he
because
sends
he's under disguise.
Yeah, he sends that's who she cuts is the person he sends in disguise.
That's what it is.
That's right.
No. But
Yeah.
the person in disguise is him. Because
Oh,
he's
yeah.
outside the portal, and it's like the bearded glasses fellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he sends the minion in, and the minion is Teacher in disguise, and underneath the like
Okay.
Yeah.
cloaking device,
He's like a whole half
he's
a
like-
foot taller, and he's got the
absolutely covered in devices.
yeah. He's got
Yeah.
stuff all over him. Yeah.
That's right.
And that's when he like gets on the ground and is like, you just, take my hand. I'll give you the powers. You just
Yeah.
gotta
And she doesn't do it.
just
Yeah.
sign the devil's contract, and I'll fix your brain.
right.
Yeah. We get the brief mention of Glory Girl and Panacea. I just want to read
Oh.
this because it's great.
Please do.
The girl with healing powers had been placed deliberately next to a, and I quote, living pool of flesh with multiple heads of golden hair. The healer's hands were covering her face, but she didn't step away. Her hands slowly lowered, and she laid her eyes on the monster, which was actively, ineffectually reaching out for her.
Oh.
And all I can think of is, for all you fans out there of this show, Edward.
Edward.
Mhm.
Oh. God.
Big brother.
You had to do that.
Big brother.
No.
Hey, me. Just
No.
Quick aside on my flight back from Thanksgiving. You can cut this out, Michael. On the airplane, I'm scrolling through the movies to watch, and it has Fullmetal Alchemist. It only has like 8 episodes, but that was one of them. I was like, why? You have 60
Yeah.
episodes to choose
because
from.
it's like episode 3 or something that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Just all right. It's like, okay, I'll watch it.
Depending on which episode, first episode for Brotherhood is like fine, but then the second episode opens up with a demonic summoning ritual that goes horribly wrong. Third episode is also a terrible melding ritual that goes horribly
It's
wrong.
fantastic.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Taylor's passenger.
Stupid? Yes.
I was gonna say, is it taking her back to her trigger event? Where
What do
like
you mean?
everybody's
Maybe.
out to get her, and she's feeling very like almost claustrophobic with like how tight of space she's like conscious of.
Hmm.
I hadn't thought
Yeah.
of it that way, but I like that. I think that works.
Well, because it does seem like she is reverting back to that state of primal fear,
Primal
which she
fear
would have
and panic.
experienced. Yeah, which she
Mhm.
would have experienced being trapped in a locker, feeling
Okay,
like the world's against
Because
you.
remember when they opened the locker, she came out swinging.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Right.
Yeah,
And I get that
yeah.
vibe of like her when like people are trying to get at her, and like she cuts or thinks she cuts or does cut
She cuts Teacher.
Teacher twice.
Yeah.
Once in the palm and once in the forearm, because he's under her power. And she essentially like holds him still while she cuts him.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
they yoink him out with, probably a rope or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think that might be a good assessment of what's happening, which is why all she wants to do is escape. But
Mhm.
Taylor's always been a fighter to escape, right? She's not just
Yeah.
gonna run away. She's gonna punch her way through it if she can.
Yeah.
So
Punch,
yeah, I
claw,
see that.
bite, poison.
And then she meets Contessa.
Okay, wait, hold on. She
Okay.
has a moment with Glace Guenye before she goes through, right? And Glace Guenye like lets her go or has like this kind of
Yes.
like quiet smiling moment with her
Yeah, because Glassig Wenye is the one who opens the portal that sends her
to
to
let her
Contessa.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to send her to Contessa.
Well,
To let her go is,
you know.
It's a different kind of letting go. It's like letting go of Lemmy at the end of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
I didn't read.
That's okay. Jacob
you get
knows.
the
That's
idea.
all that matters.
It's brutal. God, broke me. Those core childhood memories were like, oh, well, I guess I'm an adult now.
No.
I was watching The Iron Giant for me when I was 10.
Yeah. Same vibes. Same vibes.
You stay, I go.
Yeah.
No
Haven't
following.
seen that one.
Oh, you got it.
Oh,
Hannah.
God.
Look,
We talk about this
brutal.
every
we've
third
talked about
episode.
this every 5 episodes. The
And
Iron
it
Giant
hurts me
somehow comes up.
every time, Hannah.
Look, Alan and I have talked about watching it. Like we have had an active discussion about it. We just haven't done
All right. Off podcast, we're going to have a movie night. We're
Yeah.
going to watch The Iron
it. Oh, I
Giant.
would love that. That would
And
make
it's
me
gonna be
so
great.
happy. That would be
And
amazing.
for any listeners who have not seen The Iron Giant,
Could we have a
that's your homework.
Could we have a watch party? Like, could we have a
Ooh.
maybe we
That's
could have a
iffy.
watch
That's
party?
iffy. That's iffy legally, but we can talk about it later.
As long as it's less
Well-
than 11 people.
That's true.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right.
That's true.
That would be fun to do with the patrons.
Reserve your spots.
That'd
There
be,
you go.
that's
That'd be
true.
fun to do with the patrons.
Yeah.
And probably not
Yeah, we-
everyone could make it anyways.
Be fun.
True.
We'll talk about it. It's a good idea.
Anyways,
But,
back to the last.
Contessa.
We're on the last chapter.
Well, we're on the last bit. Contessa.
Last bit of the last
Contessa.
chapter.
Last half of the last chapter.
Tessa.
Contessa.
More than
My
meets
girl.
the eye.
To confess.
Thank you.
Time.
Contessa
You're
is
welcome.
Bay.
Contessa is Bay. It's funny. I liked her more in
Brockton Bay.
this section. Okay. Yeah. I liked her more in this section than I've ever liked her ever before.
I feel like this is the first time, theory, that Contessa doesn't have like survive the end of the world as her path.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
she's past that point now. So she's on whatever her next objective and path is. But we get to see like an additional side of her at this point. She's
Mhm.
I wonder, because she's like the only person that we know of with a living Eden shard.
yeah.
So I wonder,
As opposed to like the
Uh,
cauldron ones, which are dead ones.
Right.
yeah, they're all dead ones. Which I don't know if we ever talked about. We go all the way back to the Leviathan fight when Scion sees, I think it's Legend or maybe Eidolon doing his like laser beam. No, it's Legend doing the laser beam to like push Leviathan, and Scion like looks at him with disgust.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember that.
This is something Taylor was like, "Huh, that's weird."
That's weird how
Like,
a face
maybe
that shows
because,
no emotion can somehow display disgust.
Yeah, it's like it's not a big thing, but that looked like disgust, and it's because it's a dead Eden shard that they're using because they're cauldron capes.
Right. That's interesting.
Oh, Wild Bow, you clever
Hot
bastard.
dog. You.
I actually think here we see potentially a little bit of disappointment in Contessa here. Because one of the things that Contessa could never figure out is how exactly they beat Scion.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
And so I wonder if she'd got it in her mind that she played a key role. That somehow she would be the one to kill Scion, like she told Dr. Mother how to kill Eden
Yeah.
or Eve.
Mhm.
And because the line that gets me is where she says, The person who played the biggest role in stopping him doesn't give him a second thought. There's a note of emotion in her voice. She was gripping the gun handle tightly enough that her knuckles turned white, but her expression wasn't an angry one. So it makes me, and Taylor refers to it as like, we all have our demons, our burdens, and this is hers. So I think it's almost like part of it is this realization of this was what needed to happen to win. This is what the plan was leading me towards all along, but I wasn't part of it. Because she has literally sat out the whole Scion fight in this other universe and wasn't
Yeah.
even there to see him die.
Yeah.
See, I mean, it seems like it. Yeah.
I mean, she's also been there from the beginning. Like she's been trying to coordinate all of this since they showed up, and now
exactly.
she wasn't even there.
And I mean, just imagine it too. Like she sees it's all it's happening. Kepri's controlling everybody. Scion's getting weak, and then her power is like, okay, you need to go sit over there for the next hour, and don't move. Just like,
And
just
think
wait.
about what you've done.
Yeah.
Because like arguably while Taylor has sacrificed her, her sanity and her, her life at the end, all for, to defeat Scion, that's in a relatively short span of time. Contessa has essentially dedicated / sacrificed her life
Everything.
since she was a child.
Yeah.
Every day is essentially, what steps do I take next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To ensure that we make it.
It's all checklists.
It's all checklists her entire life.
Yeah.
There's
I think
this,
part of it too is that. Oh, go ahead, Jacob.
I was just gonna say, there's this like kind of not so subtle theme throughout all of Worm where we're introduced constantly to all of these characters that all think they are how Earth survives. Coil, Contessa, Teacher, Eidolon, Saint, Dragon, Defiant. Like all of these characters think that they have the answer, that they will be the one to save the girl. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's great because it's just such a common trope in these types of stories, to that hero's journey, if you will, and the fact that this is a hero's journey story essentially, but it told in opposition to the traditional journeys we're expecting to follow is really cool, and just seeing how Taylor ends up being that hero as opposed to everybody else.
In the most villain way possible.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's so counterintuitive. Like all those other heroes have way more, literary legitimate claims to this end, right? But Taylor's the one that gets it, which is cool.
Also get a Kepri name drop. Finally.
Finally, the Kepri name.
What does Kepri mean? I didn't trouble to look it up earlier.
I didn't either.
I believe it's the dung beetle, like symbolized by the dung beetle, but it's a Egyptian god. And the whole like the dung beetle pushing is like the symbology of like pushing the sun.
Oh yeah.
So it's like an integral to like new beginnings, like the cycle.
Yeah.
New, the new day.
Is that why it's called
Also,
Gold
like,
Morning?
New day.
I believe.
Well, that's just called
I always-
Gold Morning because it's Scion as well.
Well, I
I
imagine
think-
that the idea is that they're kind of entwined a bit.
Probably
Yeah.
both. Yeah.
You can definitely make
because with him
connection,
blowing up
for sure.
the UK is essentially considered the
Beginning of Gold Morning.
Because it's the shot heard, literally the shot heard around the world.
Yep.
Yeah. So
England involved in both.
Oh.
I know, right? I was trying to think of some way to tie that together, but
yeah, there you go. Yeah. This is where as well we find out that Glycygwinier, this is where Taylor like did something that influenced her, because she says, Contessa says, were you really a hero? Do the good intentions win out? Was it Glycygwinier's strength or yours that held her back from saving Scion in those final moments? So there was that moment where Glycygwinier could have stopped Taylor, because she's even talked about that, like in this weird way, Glycygwinier saw herself, and it's probably because of her shard, but she saw herself as a counterpart to Scion. And I think that
Mhm.
maybe in giving herself to her shard, Glycygwynye, unbeknowing to her, had kind of begun to think of herself as the replacement for Eden, or
Yeah.
like as a potential replacement for Eden.
Doesn't
If
she say
if
as
she,
much in
yeah,
on the oil rig?
I
Something
think
similar
so,
to
yeah,
it.
something to that effect. Not quite that specific, but to that
Right.
effect.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Where
because I mean, she
basically,
collects enough of these shards
yeah,
Yeah.
if she
with
collected
everybody
everybody,
dying.
every shard, then she would be essentially Eden.
Mhm.
So
And
yeah,
she either merges, she as a shard merges back into Scion, and he is once again complete, because that's her purpose of her shard. Or she just, keeps the separateness and becomes a new partner.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Because they even talk about that
Crazy.
as a potential like way they got out of things was Scion was just sad for a while, but then a new entity showed up and he partnered with the new entity and everything was fine again.
Mhm.
Fine, all not knowing that in the end the entities will destroy
He's a,
everything
he's a
anyway.
simple entity. He
Yeah,
doesn't.
he's a he's just a
Yeah.
simple little guy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I think really that does these questions that Contessa asks at the end is really kind of like sums up the story, right? Were you really a monster in the end? A warlord, an alien administrator, a vicious killer, a bully, or were you really a hero? Do the good intentions win out? And then Taylor
Mhm.
just kind of says, she says, why does it matter? And I think ultimately that's kind of sums up Taylor too of like,
Yeah.
does
Right.
it really matter if I was a hero or a villain?
Yeah.
I, you know,
Yeah.
Crazy.
and then she gets capped.
Pop,
Two
Blap,
pop.
blap.
shots.
Well,
What?
but like there's this moment where potentially she could not, and like she could choose to like help her. Like, I think you have a
Yeah.
chance to come back from this. Not much of a chance. Part of that rides on me. I could help you.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
ideally,
she
she could
helped her.
see the path to victory and see that, like, okay, so if we follow this 14,000 step plan, we can rehabilitate you,
Yeah.
or I could just end this right now. And she's like,
Y-
I've got my
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
And I think too, this one line just kind of kills me with Taylor's self like belief on
Killed
her.
Taylor
Like
too.
it killed her too, but just she
I,
says, I opened my mouth to reply and I didn't deserve to either way.
Yeah.
Basically her saying like I don't deserve this. Like just I've done what I needed to do. I saved humanity. That was enough for me. Whatever you decide to do, Contessa, is what you decide to do.
I mean, it got to be insane guilt there. I mean, even with
oh,
Yeah.
saving the day, billions
I
died.
think so,
So
yeah.
like, you know, good for you. You saved something, but it was still, worlds were destroyed. You can't live with that,
yeah.
for sure.
Mm. What an ending.
Yeah.
An ending
Ooh.
of Worm proper.
Gosh.
We will do the interludes or the epilogues. We will do an
Yeah.
episode for those. But yeah,
Mhm.
the story is over. What a ride.
Michael.
That is the right reaction, Michael.
I will say,
Ooh.
this afternoon after I had my initial, 30-minute crying session on the couch, I was talking to Alan a little bit and I was just kind of like saying that the worst part of it was this idea that like she used everybody in the end and like turned everyone against her. And that was when I was thinking of that mob mindset of like everyone's coming after her now. And so my thought process was very much that like even in the end of like how do people remember you?
Mhm.
Oh man. Okay. Um sorry. That how people remember you is like the people that knew you, and that like you live on because of people's memory of like who loved you. And like Tattletale and Bitch and Imp loving her and like trying to save her from herself. And the idea that like even if she was the villain in the end, that like they loved her. And that was like so sad. And I was crying about it and thinking about it and being like, oh my gosh, like to everyone, she was the villain. And now to think about it in the sense that she like misunderstood the whole situation. And all these people, like,
Yep.
maybe we're looking at her being like, yeah, I didn't like my body being controlled, but we fucking did it. And they're celebrating. And she's just like so gone. And kind of this like it makes it sadder. But like Taylor will be remembered as like a villain, maybe, but also as like the one who ended everything. And that maybe she won't be remembered as a villain. You know? And that idea that like there is a little bit of hope to it of like maybe history will look fondly on Taylor, you know?
We'll put a
Yep.
pin in that because I want to
Oh,
come back to
no.
that. I want to come back
Okay.
to that after. Well, no, this is like a good pin. Come back to that
Okay.
in the epilogues because I
Okay.
honestly forget all of the epilogue except
Mhm.
for literally like 2 lines in one conversation that I think sort of is the central theme of the whole story. But we'll touch on it when we get to the epilogue. But it's right in line with what you're talking about, Hannah.
Okay.
More to look
And it's
forward to,
beautiful.
folks.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the only thing I
All-
remember from those next like
Yeah.
I
6
don't
chapters.
remember anything ever.
all the way back in arc 1. All Taylor ever wanted to be was a hero.
I
Yeah.
know.
And what's her last? It's such a great final line too. Her final words. We're so very small in the end, looking up at the universe. Just yeah.
I'm
Well done,
very
Taylor.
upset. I'm very upset.
Good story.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. We'll save. Well, I guess let's save final reactions, full final reactions for the epilogues, just because there's some
Yeah.
final thoughts there,
Yeah.
and we'll kind of get a
Makes
chance
sense.
to review everything again,
Mhm.
touch on characters and moments. I was gonna say, do we want to do favorite powers from this arc?
Oh my
But
god.
I don't know. Like,
Acid bath. Rock on, man.
right. Acid bath.
No.
Like-
I don't know. It's hard because it's all interpreted through Taylor.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Taylor's
yeah.
eyes. So there's a part of me that's like, whose power was that? What was happening?
Ash
But-
Beast was pretty fun to see.
Ash Beast was
Yeah.
pretty cool. Ash Beast.
Throwing
was pretty
Ash
cool.
Beast.
The bones,
Ash Beast
dude.
was amazing.
Bones
I
dude.
mostly just liked seeing Sundancer and Ballistic and Genesis again. I thought
Yeah.
that was super cool.
Yeah.
Do you like seeing
them again.
Sundancer be useful for once?
Yeah, for real.
You're
No,
right.
Actually
Sundancer was
use her
very useful
powers
with Echidna.
Or twice.
Yeah. Finally.
Yeah, actually using her powers to their fullest potential. Seeing Vista again briefly was great.
Yeah.
Defiant getting to
Dinah.
pull the trigger. Dinah. Yeah, Defiant getting to pull the trigger that kills Scion feels
Yeah,
appropriate too.
that was great.
You know?
I love that.
Because he
Um,
couldn't do it with Leviathan, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
hey,
finally gets to do it.
this one's for you, Defiant.
Yeah,
I did
yep.
love
He's
all
like,
the
Colin.
false deaths. We had
I
Dragon.
just
fake her
imagine
death.
him being
Yeah.
Dragon Faker Death. I do imagine Defiant being like, I lost to Leviathan. Scion beat Leviathan, and I killed Scion.
So by
Therefore,
extension,
I am better than Leviathan.
yeah, by extension, I
Yeah,
beat Leviathan.
I
100%.
imagine in like one final pan in some little final montage of our Worm show, by the way, where it's like going through all the characters, what they're finally doing at the end of their lives. Defiance just like in the middle of the ocean taking a piss. Just like one last
Like, yeah.
one last fuck you.
Take that, Leviathan.
Oh man, he's so
Right before
mechanical
he
now though.
chops
It's
his
all
dick
oil
off
though.
so he can go full robot.
Full robo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
It's been a journey. We've
It
got
has.
one little section left, but it's been a good one.
Any final thoughts on the
Ooh.
arc? Save it for the epilogues.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll save a big wrap up for the epilogues probably.
Ooh, sounds good. In that case, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. Arc 30. It was a long one. Thanks for sticking with us. We knew this one was going to be a bit intense, a bit emotional. The end of the journey.
Not our
just
longest.
about. Not our longest.
Not the
Not our
longest.
longest.
Yeah, arc 16 or whatever that was that we just
Mhm.
couldn't finish. But hey, it's been an absolute blast to get to read through the story again
So fun.
with all of you. And all of our listeners been reading along with us or listening along. All of it's been great. We've super enjoyed the small community we've built over on our Patreon. We've had a lot of fun talking about Worm and sharing memes and additional insights. So if you don't want to stop talking about it, because we certainly don't, head on over to our Patreon and
Yeah.
consider joining. We will keep the party going. And we're going to continue past this. We're definitely reading Ward at some point. We'll work on a timeline for that, but we're going to get to Ward eventually as well.
And
And-
special Patreon only content that will feature some special stuff.
Exactly. Patreon special content, which we've got a lot planned for that too. And of course, stick
Just as
around. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say, just as a teaser for an idea that we had, between Jacob and I, we came up with the idea of what if Bitch got a handle on the Paw Patrol.
Yes. Yes. I like that as a teaser. Yeah.
Other stuff
No
too.
more content.
Other
other
stuff
context.
too.
Listen, I
Fictional
have children.
dog showdown.
Yeah.
Fictional dog showdown. There you go.
This is the kind of stuff that we talk about over on
Oh,
Patreon.
goodness.
We have a
Yep.
good time.
Worm and non-worm content.
Oh, yes. We have a blast. Next week, Alan and I will conclude Arc 30 for our dissecting worm portion of this journey and try to figure out how to tie a bow on this. And for those who've stuck around with that, it's not easy. It's a lot of fun. So we're going to try to figure that one out. That'll be next week. And then we'll do a full episode for the epilogues. So that'll be fun. We'll kind of probably do that as our wrap up episode for Worm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
stick around for that. And I think that takes care of everything. So without further ado, Michael, would you be so kind as to play us out?
Thank you so much for listening. Read along with us at parahumans.wordpress.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you love? What did you hate? Anything you think we missed, etc., as long as it's kind. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find us on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit at Brockton Bay BC, or click the link in the description.